bespoke radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
All right, welcome. Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. Yeah, man. How you doing? Today's Wednesday, March 20th, 2019. 79 days into the new year, just 286 days left. We are live from a bunker somewhere in the middle of beautiful downtown Burbank, California. And I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the Planet. I am your host, Jimmy Church. That's right. You know what's coming next. What is cracking, everybody? How you doing? That's right. What a week. What a week on the show. You know, if this is what, I mean, for me, this is what I find so great, is that I am able to talk about lost history, music, UFOs, Egypt, time travel, tacos, food, television, movies, everything that I just want to talk about, and I can do it. And we did it all this week. And tonight it continues, because we have two very special guests with us, back with us. Doctors JJ and Desiree Hurtak are here. And we are going to talk about their new book. It is called Giza's Industrial Complex. I'm holding it up for the cameras right now. As you can see, a giant oversized book, glossy, full of illustrations on every page, charts, graphs, maps, topography, floor plans. Let me just give you an example. I mean, it's like this on every page. It's not really showing up for the camera, but it's because it's glossy. It's just beautifully done, really well written and researched. They've been doing this for 4 decades now. It's pretty crazy. And you can go back and look at some of their documentaries over the years, and this is what they do. So tonight, it's ancient Egypt and how the Great Pyramid and what's going on and what was built on the Giza Plateau quite possibly was powering and gassing up, fueling up ancient Egypt. So that's what we are going to discuss tonight. Tomorrow night is Fader Night. It's open lines all night long. And Karen, that is a disturbing picture. That's a dog? Oh, man. You want to see what I'm seeing right now? Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. So what you want to do at JChurchRadio. Hashtag F2B is the sandbox. And check out the GIF. Is it GIF or GIF? GIF is peanut butter, right? So it's got to be GIF. I was listening to a Leo Laporte the other day, and I love Leo. We all love Leo, right? He's got a great show. And I'm listening to Leo, and he's saying GIF. And how am I going to question Leo Laporte when it comes to computers or tech. You can't do it, right? So is Leo right? And I've heard it both ways over the year. I've even said GIF early on when I didn't know better and got corrected. And when you get corrected and you get embarrassed, you don't do it again. So I've always gone GIF. But Leo says GIF. So what is it? I want to see in Twitter right now. Is it GIF or GIF? What is it? I want to know. I want to know right now. What do you guys... What is it? Okay. Aside from what is correct, what do you say? Frosco says GIF versus GIF. I know, right? That's pretty cool. I'm going to retweet that. That's pretty funny right there. That's well done. I want to know, what is it? Is it GIF or is it GIF? And okay, and what is it? I'm a former IT. It's GIF. Really? That's from Nathaniel. No, it is not GIF. No. That would be like getting a Christmas gift. And I agree. Dennis, one of our guys up in Canada, he says hard G, GIF. See? It's divided. Let's GIF. Mike Townsend says GIF. Okay, let's keep this going. I want to know, are we dividing our community right now? Are we dividing? So it's so GIF, as in God, as in gay, as in good. Graphical interface file, hard G, right? Yeah, GIF sounds dirty. GIF. You guys are funny. And okay, so no matter what it is supposed to be, what is it that you say? All right, let's say it's supposed to be GIF. Well, I say GIF. And that's it. But you're right, though. I like the graphical interface file. So if that's the case, it's a hard G. So why would, Leo, I should, I've got Leo's number. I've got Leo's number right here. I wonder if I should call Leo Laporte. I'll do it on the break. Get him on speakerphone. See what he has to say. Oh man, you're either a Unix person or a Windows person. Unix folks know it's GIF. Windows folks think this is peanut butter. According to Steve Wilhite, the inventor, he says GIF. Yeah. See, this is tough. I'm going GIF. I really am. And give me 5. Okay. All right. I got to move on. We spent enough time on this, but all because of Karen McIntyre posing a dog with a human face. That was disturbing. Kind of looked like Karen. I'm just going to say, if I can, really quick, looks like Lady Gaga, right? Is that Lady Gaga as a dog? That's pretty funny. All right. Let's go. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. That's where all of the fun is. Facebook, YouTube, and everything is Jimmy Church or Fade to Black. And you can follow, like, and subscribe over on the website. You got those little things. You just click on those. And looks like we're going to keep this going. Could it be her dog? Could be. That could be. All right. Any questions or comments during the show tonight? Hashtag F2BQ. The book is amazing, and if you want to participate in the conversations tonight, use hashtag F2B. That's F, the number 2B. Look at that. JJ signed it for me. Look at that. How cool is that? Or we have 2 chat rooms. 2 chat rooms, one on Spreaker and one, of course, over at the network at KGRA, The Planet. You can also email throughout the show, Jimmy@JimmyChurchRadio.com. Let's get to the breaking news, and this is one of those disturbing breaking news stories that is almost too hard to believe. But here we go. About 1,600 people have been secretly filmed in hotel rooms in South Korea, with the footage live streamed online for paying customers to watch. And this was announced by police earlier today. 2 men have been arrested and another pair investigated in connection with the scandal, which involved 42 rooms in 30 accommodations in 10 cities around the country. Police said there was no indication the businesses, the hotels, were complicit in the scheme. Cameras were hidden inside digital TV boxes, wall sockets, and hair dryer holders, and the footage was streamed online. South Korea has a very serious problem with spy cameras and streaming and illicit filming. That's right. In 2017, more than 6,400 cases of illegal streaming were reported to police. And the first thing that comes to mind, obviously, is ew. That's the first thing, right? And second, you would assume a certain right to privacy once you get into a hotel room, right? If the bellman brings your luggage and expects a tip, you tip him. He goes out, closes the door, and that's it. You are alone in your hotel room, but not in South Korea, you ain't. All of those things that would go down were streamed. Think about that for a second. That's right. The website had about 4,000 customers, each paying about $48 a month. That's right. And there was options, too, as well. You could pay to upgrade. You could pay to upgrade to rewind your favorite scene. Yeah. There you go. Tourism in South Korea just went in the tank. All right. Don't forget, the Surfer music streaming app is available free for download. Just go to the banners at jimmychurchradio.com. Click on it. It's surfr.fm. Surfer. It's super easy. It's super fun. All you have to do is download it. That's it. You don't give up any privacy. You don't give up your email. You don't sign up. You don't do anything but click and download. That's all you got to do. And then just start listening to your favorite music. It's absolutely amazing. Look, yes, it's 100% free. That's it. That's it. There's no privacy. There's nothing. Just go and download it. The Surfer music streaming app. It's absolutely amazing. And it's the only music streaming app that I use. All right, our next event is coming up. It is Contact in the Desert. Of course, Doctors JJ and Desiree Hurtak will be there along with me. And you can come and hang out with us, and that is May 31st through June 3rd in Indian Wells, Palm Springs, California, at the Renaissance Indian Wells Resort and Spa. Tickets and info are over at contactinthedesert.com. We're going to be doing 3 events that weekend. Of course, we have our big Fade to Black booth, too, as well. But Friday night, we're broadcasting Fade to Black live. And if you've never been there, this will be our 5th, 6th year broadcasting live from Contact in the Desert. If you've never been to a live radio show or been to Fade to Black live, this is where you want to come check it out. So much fun. We packed a room full of Fadernauts. We bring in 12, 13, 14, 15 guests over 3 hours. You've always heard the broadcast, but come and see it live. That'll be Friday night, okay, at 7 p.m. Same thing that we do here, 7 to 10 p.m. live from the resort. Then Saturday night, I am hosting the awards dinner on Saturday evening. So you need tickets for that. It's a dinner, right? And I want to fill up that room with nothing but Fadernauts. That's it. And as a requirement, you get the tickets, you wear your Fade to Black T-shirt. All right? If you get to Contact in the Desert, you forget your T-shirt, but you're going to the dinner, I'll give you a T-shirt just so you can wear it at the dinner. All right? I'm serious. Let's pack that room. It's going to be so much fun. That's Saturday night. And then Sunday night, I'll be hosting the closing night ceremonies and panel like I do every year. And on that panel are our guests tonight, JJ and Desiree Hurtak. And that is May 31st through June 3rd in Indian Wells, Palm Springs, California. Oh, man, it's going to be great. And you know who else is going to be there? That's right. Hoffman's Optics is going to be there. We're going to do, you know what? You know there's going to be a night watch. That's right. Come and hang out with us at Contact in the Desert. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. It's just $2 per month. Go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on that podcast banner. We have over 1,000 shows right there available just for you. And you can also become a Fade or Not over in our membership section of the site. Very simple. Click on it. Got 4 levels of membership there for you, from free to full-on game changer and everything that you need. Go check it out. Membership at jimmychurchradio.com. Let's get the show cracking. Happy birthday to today. Director Spike Lee is 62. And check this out. Singer Vera Lynn today is 102 years old. And Vera Lynn sang "We'll Meet Again." That's right. The song featured in Stanley Kubrick's Dr. Strangelove. Yeah, that song, "We'll Meet Again." Such an amazing song. Vera Lynn, happy birthday. Happy 102. Incredible. Our dead guy's birthday today is, I need a moment of silence, please, Chester Bennington. 1976 to 2017, died at the age of 41, lead vocalist of Linkin Park. The band's 2000 album, Hybrid Theory, was certified diamond. Of course, Chester committed suicide last year on July 20th, 2017, at his home here in Southern California. On this day in history, check this out. 1345. Let's turn on the Wayback Machine. 1345, because according to scholars at the University of Paris, the Black Death is created on this day in 1345 from what they call a triple conjunction of Saturn, Jupiter, and Mars in the 40th degree of Aquarius. And this occurred on the 20th of March in 1345. The Black Death, also known as the Plague, swept across Europe and the Middle East and Asia during the 14th century, leaving an estimated 25 million people dead. Fate or fact, Lake Baikal in Siberia, Russia, is the deepest freshwater lake in the world with a depth of 5,387 feet. But it also holds 20% of the world's freshwater reserve. And that is your fate or fact. When it all goes down, Lake Baikal is where you're going to want to be. 20% of the world's fresh water right there in one spot. Incredible. Tonight, Doctors JJ and Desiree Hurtak are here. We're going to be talking about their new book. It is called Giza's Industrial Complex. It's beautifully illustrated, glossy, oversized, full color, every page, incredible, well-written, well-researched, and it's helping us answer the mysteries of what went on and the reason for it in Giza 4,000, 5,000 years ago. Okay, so there you go. That's what we're going to do tonight. And one of the questions that I have at this point of the show every single night is how quickly I can get to my River Moon coffee. Because it's truly the best, and I need it to talk. Coffee talk. One of the questions that pops up into my head every single time that I see an image of the Great Pyramid is, well, although it may seem obvious, and it's not who built it. Nope. This is how my brain works, man. My brain is twisted. It's what would happen if I went to the biggest engineering firm in the world, you know, one that builds bridges and skyscrapers, and I said, hey, build me this. Build me that, right? What would the answer be? Think about it. You see, if I want a 120-story building built in Dubai, right? They could draw it up and have that thing ready for occupancy in about 2 years. Seriously. And you always wonder, how do they do that? How do they design the electricity, the plumbing, the elevators, how do they do it? How do they build it? How do they design it? Floor after floor after floor. And, okay, right? In fact, buildings like this are constructed every single day all over the planet, right? Think about it. No matter where you go, no matter what city, you will see some tall, amazing building, maybe 2, maybe 3. Here in Los Angeles, there's probably 50 under construction right now. Between Hollywood and downtown L.A., that's all you see, those ginormous 50-story cranes, right? Building something crazy. So, with all of this CAD technology, computer-aided design, all of these systems in place today with all of the advanced logistics that are available, how much rock quarried and carved and moved stones are there, et cetera, and everything else that would have to be done to make this thing possible, a duplicate of the Great Pyramid. Well, they should be able to get back to me in a few weeks, right, with an estimate going, okay, Mr. Church, we got your stuff right here. Okay, it's going to take this, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and that's how much it's going to cost. Right? Well, how come this hasn't been done? I know a lot of engineers have been consulted. I've seen all the documentaries, but I'm talking about a real-world estimate. I'm not talking about taking an engineer to a 100-story building and saying, hey, man, how much to build that? And he goes, okay, well, I've been an architect for a long time and an engineer, civil engineer, and, it's going to cost. No, I'm talking about the biggest of the big engineering and construction firms in the world, applying all of their computer, muscle, mind power, everything, the best engineers and civil, their best concrete, the best of everything, apply it, and get me an answer. Right? And I'm serious. Why hasn't it been done already? You would think something as simple as that, with the most amazing construction on this planet, which is the Great Pyramid, that this analysis hasn't been done. I mean, real world, real tech, real engineering by the best, with answers such as cost and time. And, well, if it actually could be done, why not take this to a company like Bechtel? Right? Bechtel, right here in the United States. And by some estimates, Bechtel is either the 4th, 5th, or 6th largest company in the United States. One of the largest engineering firms, construction firms on the planet. They build nuclear power plants. That's what they do all year long, all around the world. They build coal power plants. They're building everything for China right now. It's not China building them. It's Bechtel building them in China. They build airports. The big international airports, the biggest, built by Bechtel. Railroads. They built the channel connecting the UK to France. So, if they could build the channel, let's see what they would have to say about building a modern, identical version of the Great Pyramid. And I think their answer would surprise us. I really do. I think it would totally silence the Egyptologists of the world. And they also might have some insight as to what the Great Pyramid actually is and does, because they build nuclear reactors. Right? And I'm not kidding about this. Bring in the company that dug the tunnel between the UK and France and drove cars through it. I don't know if they could legitimately get it done. I don't. Forget about ancient Egypt and slaves or not slaves and hundreds of thousands of bodies. No. I'm talking about modern technology, the logistics, the real math, the logistics, getting the material there. Not only that, but how do you get the staircases, the Grand Gallery built, the descending stairs how does the Queen's Chamber get in? How do all of it? How do you align a building like that to true north, magnetic north? any north? How do you level it on stone, without stone? How do you do that? How do you get the materials there in a modern context? Could they build it? And I think the answer would surprise us, because when you go and you build a 120-story building, you build a nuclear reactor. A nuclear reactor. I think you know how to get things done. And I think you know how to pour concrete. And I think you know something about stone. I do. Metals. I really do. So think about that for a second. And the reason why these questions are so important today is because of people like JJ and Desiree Hurtak. Researchers in this community have been thinking outside of the box. They call it fringe, right? Thinking outside of the box for a long time, because they know when you look at the Giza pyramid, when you look at the Great Pyramid, you just know what we have been told isn't right. And they've left it up to us to unwrap this puzzle for ourselves. Whether they know the truth or not, certainly society isn't investigating it. Civil engineers aren't investigating it. They're not. Bechtel isn't looking into it. If I was the CEO, and I'm picking on Bechtel, if I was the CEO of Bechtel, I would have a special project on that. I really would. Think about it. Bechtel architect contemplating the pyramid construction. Oh, Karen's in rare form tonight. First, it's Lady Gaga's dog, and now it's that. So, our guests tonight, JJ and Desiree Hurtak, their new book, Giza's Industrial Complex. Great conversation. Tomorrow night is Fader night. Dead ahead is JJ and Desiree Hurtak. I'll be right back after this short break. This is Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. I'll be right back. Stay with us.
This is Nicole Church, daughter of you-know-who, and you're listening to Fade to Black on JimmyChurchRadio.com and the Game Changer Network.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can get our podcast for just $2 per month. All you have to do is click on the podcast banner over at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Hey, folks. Guess what the number one phrase that Life Change Tea receives by email? You ready? We love this tea. We love this tea. Time after time, week after week. We love this tea. Life Change Tea gives you more energy. a beautiful cleansing, and fulfills its slogan perfectly. The tea that makes you go. So if you want to be on your health game, log on to getthetea.com and order Life Change Super Strength Tea. Packages come in a 1-month supply, and when you brew this stuff, wait until you see the results. Aren't we all about the results? And with a lot of people's health struggling, we can use a little bit of help. Doctors will tell you disease starts in the gut. So log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Be our next email saying, I love this tea. I love this tea. Get the tea at getthetea.com. Helping America one tea bag at a time.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Do you want to lose weight but have no idea where to begin? The Fast Start Diet, a 3-day weight loss plan, is the answer. 3 days of nutritionally balanced, calorie-restricted meals delivered right to your door. No shopping, no measuring, and no cooking. Everything is prepared for you and ready to eat at home or on the go. The Fast Start Diet has all the amazing benefits of intermittent fasting without starving. We've helped thousands of people who have struggled to reach their weight loss goals. Isn't it time we helped you? With the Fast Start Diet, you'll lose weight and feel great.
Find Fast Start Diet on Amazon or go to faststartdiet.com and use promo code TALK to get 10% off your first box. And as a special bonus, Fast Start will include their #1 rated Lipo3 appetite suppressant spray free with your order. This is Jimmy Church. And whatever your diet plans are, do what I did. Go to faststartdiet.com.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Doctors JJ and Desiree Hurtak are here. Tomorrow night is Fader night. It is open lines all night long. Tonight, ancient Egypt, Giza, the Great Pyramid. As everyone knows, that is a listener of Fade to Black and Coast to Coast AM. This is truly my favorite and most researched subject right here, holding the book up to the cameras. JJ Hurtak, Ph.D., and Desiree Hurtak, Ph.D., are social scientists, futurists, and founders of the Academy for Future Science. They have been researchers in the field of UFO study for over 40 years. JJ, along with Dr. John Mack and Dr. Scott Jones, was a presenter at the first government disclosure on ET intelligence in Washington, D.C. back in 1995. In 1977, he was a presenter at the First World Congress on OVNIs in Acapulco, Mexico, with J. Allen Hynek. They are also well known for all of their films on conscious evolution, including Merkabah, The Light Body, Gateways to the Light, and one of my favorites, the voice of a Zulu Shaman, Credo Mutwa, for which they have received numerous film awards. And tonight we're going to discuss their new book, Giza's Industrial Complex, Ancient Egypt's Electrical Power and Gas Generating System. I would like to welcome back to Fade to Black, Doctors JJ and Desiree Hurtak. Good evening, you two. How are you?
Great. It's good to be with you and your worldwide audience. This is a fantastic, provocative subject we want to explore in some greater depths.
Desiree, how are you?
I'm doing great, and this is research we've also been doing since the 70s and 80s, and we're so happy to be able to put this out in a great book that we hope everyone's going to enjoy.
And also, I want to remind everybody, we're going to be hanging out once again this year at Contact in the Desert, and you guys are on my panel, closing night for the ceremony, Sunday night. I'm really looking forward to that and enjoying another conversation in front of thousands of people with you two once again.
Thank you. Yeah, we're looking forward to it, too. You always have a great lineup.
And we'll have some close-ups of our recent research in Egypt.
Yeah. Now, you know what? Let's kind of jump into this feat first, because there's a lot to discuss here. And the three of us have talked about ancient Egypt many times in the past. But this is the thing, and I'm going to throw this at Desiree first. What is it about the Great Pyramid, Desiree, that keeps us guessing and questioning, and also the entire world intrigued at the same time? What is it about the Great Pyramid?
Well, many people think, we can do that same thing today. But really, and we've talked to many other people who are in construction, whether it's commercial construction or smaller construction. In fact, our co-author on this book is James Brown, and he's been a contractor starting in Palm Springs, and now he's in southern Colorado. And he looks at this, and he's analyzed it also back in the 70s, and he says there's no way. Now, you can put a block upon a block and probably get as high as it is. But what you can't do is make the small air shafts, perfectly constructed, going like 200 plus feet.
Right.
And even the descending passage. So you're not just talking about a block upon a block. And I have to say, we have, in addition, I know you listed a couple of websites, but we just put up something called initiation.us for us, you can say, or for USA. And it shows on one of the pages a YouTube video that we were all part of shooting back in the 70s and 80s when Nippon Corporation said, we can do it, let's give it a try. And you can see this little funky thing that they did, and they could not use primitive barges, they could not use primitive tools. They ended up using helicopters and, heavy ships to move these barges and bricks and everything like that. And they could only go, maybe 30 feet, pushing 40 feet high. I mean, not even close to the size of the pyramid, which is really pushing something like 500 feet. So
the Great Pyramid has been kind of a beacon of mystery to all major cultures of Europe, Africa, and the West, and more recently, even the Japanese and specialists from the universities of Japan through the SCAN project have been looking for secret cavities or chambers that may throw light onto why the world population is interested in the Great Pyramid as a, shall we say, mystery of all mysteries.
Yeah, and what was interesting about that video, and I've watched it so many times over the years, is that it not only did it took them hours and hours to move those blocks a few feet. Remember when they were on the ground, they couldn't get them moved. And the modern Egyptologists are trying to tell us, if it was built in 20 years, that those blocks were quarried and placed every 2.5 minutes. Well, we know that's outrageous. But there's another part about that Nippon video that is very telling. They used half-inch gaps. Right? They didn't, you know what I mean, between the stones. Those stones weren't butted up against each other with precision. They just tried to get it done any way that they could, and it was with half-inch gaps. So not only could they not do it, but they didn't even come close to the way that it was originally constructed. And that is very telling in a modern sense.
Now, let me give you a few other points. So specifically the air shafts, and we call them the star shafts because we do believe that one goes to Orion and the other to Alpha Draconis. But the one on the north is 7 inches wide and 5 inches high. That's so small. And it goes 235 feet long at 31-degree angle. I mean, that's almost impossible to do. Plus, you have some of the highest, strongest, most weighted blocks above the King's Chamber at 50 to 80 tons. And that's so high, we really don't move 50 to 80 ton blocks that high above the King's Chamber. You can put that as the foundation stone. Yeah, we can do that.
Sure.
But we don't do it that high. So, I mean, there's a lot of details that people overlook in trying to build the pyramid today.
Yeah.
If you all remember the film of John Anthony West, that was an Emmy winner in terms of the mystery of the Great Sphinx.
Yes.
Where he had several physical specialists, I should say physical, they were in geophysics, who could not explain the elevation that would be necessary for the best Erics from Sweden, or for that matter from the United States, moving those blocks.
Yeah, the most modern of cranes that we have today can do 10 tons up, right? But when you start to extend it out and over where you would need to place these stones, the weight gets smaller and smaller. It doesn't get bigger. And doing a 50-ton block or anything like that, it's impossible. We cannot do it today with a modern crane.
Exactly. No, we really can't. So anyone who's claiming this or that, we kind of like, the mystery of the Sphinx. This is that it was NBC, I think, documentary that John Anthony West and our friend Boris Said produced back in the
early 90s.
Early 90s. Dr. Hurtak was in the extended edition, which is usually the one that's seen nowadays. But in actuality, they also said that sound frequencies or vibrations might have been some key to like raising the blocks. And we do feel, not that something that we would show today because they're looking at little piece-shaped objects, but if you really had, okay, I'll go out there, like a UFO above the pyramid, having that frequency vibration, you probably could raise certain things into play. So, the book that we put out, Giza's Industrial Complex, does not cover how the pyramids were built. But certainly if you go back to ancient history, they say the gods came here. So who are the gods? And, we say extraterrestrials or maybe even what we call ultra-terrestrials probably had something to do at least with the process, if not the actual building.
And E.T., I think, is firmly in, placed on the table for this, at least for me. But how about just, maybe they were just gods? But right? But that's what it would have taken.
You would have a whole generation of civil engineers, or we would say intellectuals, including Masons, who were the best of their generation, who would have the skills to mathematically work out the physics even before the casing stones were laid in place. That pyramid would have to have been built from the top down to have such perfect alignment, not only with the 3 stars in the belt of Orion, but also the North Pole as we defined it.
And you can't even get, as you were saying, a razor blade between most of those blocks. So that's the amazing thing. And at one time, I'm sure most of your audience knows this, there were these shiny casing stones that were on the outside and that had writing on that. But when Herodotus, who, was
the great Greek historian.
Yeah, back at the time around Jesus' time, in fact, he was 5th century BC, when he went there, and then shortly thereafter, there was a guy named El Latif who went actually in about 1100 AD. He talked about these strange writings. So it wasn't hieroglyphics on the outside of the casing stones. Now, what happened to them was there was an earthquake supposedly around 1356 AD, and they were needed to restore some of the buildings in Cairo, and they were used to restore some of the mosque and other things. So, they're almost all gone, and there's certainly no writing appearing anymore. But that would give us a little insight that it probably wasn't the traditional Egyptian culture that built the pyramid.
So we've been doing work also with the pyramids in Mexico and Guatemala. We've put 20 years of research looking at what is called acoustical physics, and there's clearly a musical principle involved in the structure of the pyramidal chambers, the elevation of consciousness when you're in that vibratory field. So clearly there's a missing key to the Great Pyramid, which revolves also around acoustical physics. And we refer to this in our new book, but the future work that we'll be publishing will be illustrated in film because, as you probably know, 20 years ago, Fox Television had that worldwide special with Zahi Hawass, who claimed to have opened the tomb of Osiris, mentioning indirectly at the end of his telecast, incidentally, there was a group 2 years before. That was our group that did these studies through acoustical physics and through ground-penetrating radar.
Right, so we were part of the shore expedition with our friend Boris Said, and we had permits to go and do ground-penetrating radar, as well as video, which some of that is available, down into the tomb of Osiris. At that point, no one was calling it the tomb of Osiris. That was actually a name that Hawass gave it because it's the deepest thing on the Giza Plateau.
It's 10 stories deep, right? It's 100 feet?
Yeah, it's 100 plus feet down. So,
right,
yeah,
right.
Exactly. So when we looked at that, I mean, you could say, why would you, okay, there's a mythology. Yes, maybe you could put Osiris there. Probably he never had a body. I mean, there's some confusion about that. Obviously, when we got down there, we actually found the lid of the tomb, which was already off the sarcophagus. The sarcophagus was enclosed in water, and that's really what gave us the idea behind this book, as you've already kind of read it.
Right.
That the fact is, why would you ever build things that far deep surrounded by water. And not only that, but there's evidence of water under the Great Pyramid. There's evidence of water under other of the structures around Egypt. And also many of the temples were built very close to the Nile. It's not something you would normally do if you wanted to protect something.
So this massive construct is why we entitled our book Giza's Industrial Complex, because the underground structures match those above the ground. And of course, those above the ground are mirroring the star positions in the sky. So there's obviously a combination of mathematics, music, physics, cosmology, and what we call theology or cosmology of the eternal life.
Now, after the break, we're going to get into the industrial complex side of this. But, JJ, I've always wanted to ask you, take me back to the first time that you're on the Giza Plateau when you saw the Great Pyramid, because that first impact changes you. And you must have had a thought of initially what you were looking at, and then your mind was probably changed, whatever you were thinking about before you got to the Giza Plateau. Get me to that first moment when you first saw the Great Pyramid.
I was in Egypt in the early 60s. I was interested in Coptic documents because by my interest in philosophy, I was drawn to the Egyptian text, and I knew that the Coptic Christians also had their interpretation of the lost civilizations. And I wanted to see for myself what the Nag Hammadi texts that were discovered back earlier in the 1940s had to say. And so I had the opportunity to spend a few weeks over in Cairo. And when I saw the pyramids, I was just thunderstruck by what I felt to be the magnetism of a prism of life that modeled the whole evolutionary track, the building block that was essential to bring all science and spiritual knowledge together. It was wonderful. And at that time, the Russians were there building the Aswan Dam. And they asked me what I thought about Russian history. And I said to the Russians, I said, look, Russian history is just a page of Byzantium history, which is a page of Egyptian history. And the Russians themselves were very disturbed because they were there building this massive Aswan Dam complex that would basically flood the statues of the gods. But nonetheless, to answer your question, I felt a tremendous attachment to Egypt.
Did you feel at the time that it could have been something other than what we were being told, in that it wasn't a tomb, that it was something possibly mechanical or industrial? Did that enter your mind?
It did. I had a searching for the higher purpose of life. And that led me into many different schools of philosophy, history, Oriental studies, etc. And of course, as you may or may not know, in 1973, I wrote the book called The Keys of Enoch,
right,
which begins with the picture of the Great Pyramid in the scroll of Esther, of the queen in the Old Testament sense of connecting the knowledge of God from Ethiopia and Egypt all the way to India. And so I had this pen vision that there was a higher theology, cosmology behind this. And also I wanted to say, when I read the Bible as a child, I was always taken back that the first book of the Bible, Genesis, ends with the burial of Joseph and Jacob in the tombs of Egypt. Why would the Bible's first book end with the burial in Egypt? And this perplexed me, that there was a side of Egypt that was not being told correctly.
Yeah, if I can say, Jim, when I went for the first time, I mean, it's one of the few places I never get jet lag. There's an energy around there. Of course, we usually stay out where the pyramids are. That is just tremendous. So I also want to say, in the midst of all the industrial complex and the technology we'll be talking about, we also feel that there is an energy, a pyramidal energy, that is also key for initiation. And I don't want to deny that, possibility. It doesn't have to be maybe in the king's chamber. It could be in the area, in the temples around it. But there is an energy that takes you in greater dimension, so to speak. In fact, one time I was in there, and a friend of mine about 5 years later had the same thing. We were able to chant in the king's chamber, and all of a sudden, the wall seemed to just disappear, and I was like floating out in space. So this is not just me who had this. I've heard other people have a similar thing. And I also want to mention that just last year, ITMO, which is a university in St. Petersburg, did a study of electromagnetic energy in the two large pyramids there, especially, of course, the Great Pyramid. And they said that in the chambers and going down into the, we'll say, subterranean area, there's a strong electromagnetic field that they were actually able to capture on their computers. And it's available on the internet if you look for July 2018 about ITMO, and electromagnetic. They actually put an article in the Journal of Applied Physics, so it's quite credible.
Yeah, when that story broke last year, I covered it quite extensively here on the show, and for a very important reason. That so much research from our community has been poured into this from individuals like yourselves, where finally hardcore science and published peer-reviewed journals is proving that it ain't what it's supposed to be, right? And we needed that. We needed the rest of the world to understand that there is something going on there. We may not fully understand it, but it's certainly not a tomb for some pharaoh. There's something else happening here.
Absolutely right. In fact, we've discovered this in other locations along the Nile, that the whole Nile Valley seems like the spinal system of the human body. And as we began to put the pieces together, and we were doing this scientifically with qualified geologists, archaeologists, anthropologists, and remote sensing experts, we began to realize there's another story that has not been touched by classical Egyptologists or Romantic historians who have mythical language, but they do not understand the scientific and psychological realities of how the pyramid is a model of our body and how it can increase our higher knowledgeability, our higher contact as we're with the heavens.
Now, what about, and we're going to head into a break, so I want to get to some other recent news about Giza and what you guys think about it. And one of them, of course, is the discovery of the additional chamber above the Grand Gallery. When we have been told by Zahi Hawass and others forever that there's nothing else to find inside of the Great Pyramid, well, we all knew that probably wasn't the case. But here, this was revealed last year, and that was pretty big news. What did you think about that when the story broke?
Right. So this is the Scan Pyramid Project, which they actually analyze the Great Pyramid by analyzing the falling of muon, M-U-O-N, muon waves, and they take almost like an X-ray at the bottom to see where it's falling more solid and not more solid. So, of course, there were two places. I think some of your listeners are familiar with it. One over the chevrons, or just inside from the chevrons, which you can see on the outside of the pyramid, and the other one above the Grand Gallery, but actually in the line of the air shaft, or in that area just maybe above the air shaft. Now, you have to say there's some big questions. We definitely feel that there are additional chambers in the Great Pyramid that have not yet been found, especially the one behind the chevrons is probably a valid place. The other one above, we'd have to say, because the question on the Great Pyramid is this: is it solid, stone after stone after stone, which would be like 2,300,000 stones would have been used to build the Great Pyramid? Or are there voids inside? Now, when you go into the Queen's Chamber and you go into the little niche that's there, you'll find that there are some voids or spaces. So the big question is that very large, facility that they found over that area, as you were talking about, is that a void or is that actually a chamber? It would be interesting. It's very difficult to get up there to actually see.
If you look at the scanned documents very carefully, the vibrations around the top of the pyramid that are amplified through what is called false color or pseudo-color give a type of color schema that's very important in the distribution of energy patterns. And this matches what we have in the first plate of the Keys of Enoch, of interesting multicolor capstone effect. And so we believe that there is much more to be found in the Great Pyramid upwards, that is to say, near the top part of the pyramid. And in essence, we are, shall we say, as humans and futurists, going to ultimately see that the top part that's missing is the geometric form of vibration that connects us with all sacred structures.
Yeah, we would like to see actually some ground penetrating radar on the Great Pyramid, where you actually start at the top and bring the machines down slowly, so you can get a clearer image, because the muon waves is a great technology. We're really happy they did that. Dr. Hurtak's book, Keys of Enoch, said how important muon waves are going to be for our future. We're finding them They're analyzing things even in Antarctica with muon waves. So it's a great technology, but I don't think you get the clear sharpness that you need, and you could get from ground penetrating radar if you could get it up onto the whole pyramid and bring it down. We have some ideas for that.
Well, and so if we take all of this and try to put everything together, there's one thing that is missing. You mentioned the casing stones and the conversation over the years about the writing that was on the casing stones. But there's nothing in the Grand Gallery. In fact, there's nothing in the pyramid itself except for on the fifth layer of the relieving stones above the King's Chamber, which is probably a hoax as well.
Or graffiti.
Yeah, the graffiti. So if I built that pyramid, Desiree, if you built that pyramid for JJ, you'd have giant JJs all over that thing.
Exactly.
Right?
And also, what's also missing is the capstone. So that's a very important thing. Maybe that's the energy point or piece that really energizes the entire, geometry.
Well, the structural engineering is in the mathematical physics and the musical physics. And so that's the language. It's the language of music and the language of physics described in certain geometric relationships, not only with relationship to the North Pole, which is, shall we say, one of the measuring directions of the Great Pyramid, only off 125th of a degree. Amazing. But also in relationship to the three stars in the belt of Orion. To have that type of astrophysical engineering at that age is unbelievable. It's something that's, should we say, staggers the mind of the top minds of the world that brought together the best of the best.
And of course, our technology that we're looking at, which we'll get into in your next section, is really showing that really it is a type of machine. I would say it's a dual use. Like I said, initiation, the energy is there, the powers are there, but also technology. And not only in Giza and the whole complex, but also in Saqqara and probably even other places as well.
So the capstone that's missing is a synthesis of astronomy, mathematics, music, and physics. And when our mind is electrified to go to the higher level of synthesis, we become the capstone broadcasters. We become the missing capstone. Our mind collectively represents a higher state of consciousness connected with the orbs or the cosmic civilizations that are waiting for us in this next educational leap forward.
Now, I need to take a break right here, so let's do that. We'll pick up where we're leaving off, and of course, we'll get into the industrial side of what is going on in Giza. But the other thing that I find interesting about the lack of hieroglyphics or any writing inside of the Great Pyramid is because it was built before hieroglyphics were even a thing. That's it's not there because it wasn't there to put on the walls. That's just my take, and I'm doing a walk out on the limb, but I think I'm pretty accurate on that. I just feel pretty good about saying it. Our guest tonight, J.J. Hurtak, Desiree Hurtak, both Ph.D s, talking about their new book. It is called, I'm holding it up to the cameras now, Giza's Industrial Complex, beautifully illustrated, full color, photographs, charts, graphs, illustrations, floor plans. It's an amazing read. I'll be right back after this short break.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas. Introducing the new Surfer Music app. Listen, fade or not, you know I love my music. This is my go-to for all things notes. The Surfer app is a brand new concept in music listening. Surfer is free, providing unlimited access to thousands of live streaming radio stations. Surfer is an exciting, interactive listening experience. Discovery and surprise are built right in. Surfer is your destination to discover and rediscover great live streaming music. It features high-quality audio streams, free access to music from thousands of live streaming radio stations, unlimited listening, unlimited skipping. You get a music visualizer, and you can also select your favorite channels. Get it at the Apple App Store or Google Play. Just search Surfer Music or click on the Surfer banner at jimmychurchradio.com.
Gobekli Tepe.
Folks, this is very important information. What's to be said about CBD? AncientLifeOil.com. Our CBD is made from hemp and has 0.003 THC, which means this wonderful product won't get you high, no matter what amount you take. What does CBD do for the body? My hands are tied. But you can Google CBD benefits and be astounded. When you're finished reading, you'll want to log on to AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com and purchase. Life is good when you feel good. People are tired of pain. People are asking for non-GMO organic products to help them with, you fill in the blank. Legal in 49 states, and again, our CBD is made from hemp. Ancient Life Oil is about helping people one by one by one. If you wonder how good the product is, the CEO takes it every day without miss. AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Have a great day.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA Digital Broadcast Station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And this is Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
Yes.
We are of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
Reclaim your active lifestyle with Angioprim. Angioprim is the original liquid oral chelation supplement. Chelation helps remove toxins, heavy metals, and cholesterol in your veins and arteries that can cause blockages. Scientific research proves the active ingredient in Angioprim has superior oral chelation action that helps promote cardiovascular health. Find out more. Go to angioprim.com. Talk to a trained consultant by calling Angioprim toll-free 877-882-7221.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can become an official Fadernaut by just going to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hey, it's Grace. Can we talk about something serious for a minute? Your age. Getting old has its perks. But remember, being a few years younger, you know, your hair was thicker, you didn't have so many wrinkles, that extra weight wasn't haunting you, and you just felt better. Well, we can't turn back the clocks and go back 10 or 15 years, but you can start feeling and looking 10 or 15 years younger with Nature's Youth RSF. It's a doctor-formulated daily supplement that helps your body maintain its peak performance and fight the aging process. Imagine sleeping better, looking better, and feeling better. See how Nature's Youth RSF has helped thousands of people just like you at nature'syouth.com. nature'syouth.com. Imagine how it will feel when your family and friends are asking you what you did to look so good. Your secret will be Nature's Youth RSF. It's time to start looking better and feeling better. Learn more and order your Nature's Youth RSF at nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com.
Hello, this is Serena Wright Taylor from Conscious Life Expo, and you're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church, who holds the Lucky Pony record for the best astrological chart since 1963. True story.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
Welcome back. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Watching the great debate going down right now on Twitter with all of you on the Great Pyramids, and I love the conversation that is going on right now on Twitter. And if the question about capstones is being discussed right now, if all you have to do, everybody, just go on to Google, search capstones in Cairo Museum. and look at all of the illustrations there if you want to see what a capstone looks like, and they've got a lot of them on display in Cairo. Now, let's get straight to the book. This is what the first thing that I loved about it is chapter 1. You guys don't play around. You guys go straight to it. The purpose of the pyramids as generators. So I want to get into that. But the first question that I have is this. Generation of electricity means that the electricity is used for something. And the skeptics out there are going to say, okay, possibly, but where are the cables? What were they powering up? They didn't have light bulbs. So why would the Great Pyramid be generating electricity? And it's an obvious question, right? So how do you address that? JJ, I'll hand it off to you first.
If you look very carefully at the hieroglyphics and the pictures connected with the great temples of Egypt, you'll recognize there's a healing power that's connected with the magnification of light off the body or bioluminescence.
Well, I just want to say, though, going back to Dendera, which we've been there, and you can see clearly they may have had light bulbs. I mean, not the way we think of it, of light bulbs everywhere. And certainly it was a priestly situation, and maybe a more cosmic energy technology. But what we're proposing there is the production of something that high school students can do today, and that is hydrogen gas. And if you have certain types of gases, you can process them with certain elements into a shining light bulb. And in fact, I think there's a water. You put water in a light bulb, in a flashlight, and you shake it up, and you can light. This is something that they're selling on Amazon right now. It's a hydrogen water flashlight that you can buy. So you can do that. And the Dendera light bulb, Van Doniken had actually shown can be made to work. They actually did a three-dimensional model.
Which was shown in Vienna, Austria 2000, which was entitled The Mysteries of the Ancients, and the Swiss, German, Austrian, Japanese, and American scientists saw the flasks that basically contained neon gas. Actually, working models were made according to the specifications of Dendera.
But now, what did they really do? Well, first of all, if you look at even the big pyramid at Saqqara, which everyone says the Zoser pyramid, everyone thinks it's an old thing. It was done like step pyramids just because they couldn't get a block to go, straight across or anything like that. If you look inside, there's actually a lot of shafts. People don't know that, but there's a ton of shafts in there as well. So it probably was some sort of gas generator. It wasn't just the Great Pyramid. But with that said, one of the people who actually recommended the book and is also in the very first picture in the book, that because when James Brown went in the 70s, he took this person with him, and that's the famous Pat Flanagan.
Dr. Flanagan, who worked with the U.S. Navy and doing all sorts of underwater acoustical experiments.
And, he's popularized the idea of megahydride. In fact, he sells it all the time. And it's negatively ionized hydrogen. And he claims that this is like the key to health. If you can get this, now mostly hydrogen is positive, so there's a way of getting it negatively ionized. And he does it in a powder form. I'm not telling everyone to go out and buy it. I'm just saying hydrogen is starting to be used. There's another guy named Dr. Perricone, who has Dr. Perricone hydrogen water and is selling it. Again, and not everyone has to go out and buy it. But the idea that producing hydrogen does not have to be only for lighting things. It can actually be for agriculture. It can be for everyone's health. It can be just for energized water, as the Russians call it.
Now, I'm sorry, JJ. I'm going to jump in here. The thing that caught my eye is how you guys tie in the causeways from each one of the pyramids on the Giza complex going down to their respective temple at the end of the causeway, and then how the interconnection of everything on the inside of the pyramid would represent a generation-type device. And then you show a patent of a closed-cycle chemical laser. Well, when you look at the way that you guys have laid it out here and this patent, it seems to make an awful lot of sense, doesn't it?
Right. In fact, we showed this to Russell Targ that you had on your program 2 days ago.
Yes.
Russell Targ from SRI. We work with some of the SRI scientists like Lambert Dolphin years ago who did remote sensing testing in various parts of Egypt. So we're talking about really the best of the best in the world of geophysics, engineering, and remote sensing. So what Desiree and I are doing right now is bringing forth information that we've quietly put together over many years, because there are many people who are posturizing, pontificating their positions without real knowledge of what's there in Egypt in the subterranean basis of the basement complex beneath the pyramids, which are waterways that are being used to bring water in from the Nile and return water to the Nile. So there's an active hydraulic network that was at one time used even to float in on barges, large casing stones that were then placed according to a grid system.
Right. So years and years ago, we'll say 7,000 years ago, even 4,000 years ago, the Nile was closer actually to the Sphinx and to the pyramids. And we found from going down 100 feet on the Giza plateau, you encountered this water. In fact, right now, we went in a very dry period. We knew exactly what we were doing. But if you would go now, chances are the water level would be so high you wouldn't be able to even stand on the floor of that 100 feet deep chamber. So, and from what we know is also water, it's almost like a suction. It goes all the way up towards the pyramids.
A hydromechanical system on each phase of bringing in and circulating the water.
And it seems also if you go to Saqqara, which isn't that far away, it's about an hour and a half drive south, you end up with, depending on traffic, you end up with a lot of places that they also have temples, we'll call them temples, right along the Nile, and you also end up with very deep shafts that look like they could also store water. Yes, now maybe you want to just store water because you're in the middle of the desert, you want to store it, but it seems that there's even more, especially when you start looking at the pyramids, and when you look also at going back to the Mayans, and you go to Chichen Itza, which is really one of the best places. Most people who go to the area of the Yucatan always go there. People recently discovered that underneath El Castillo, the big pyramid there, you find water. So it's not just in the cenote nearby, but actually they built El Castillo on top of a water reservoir. And then also what's been very popularized, when you do mention it in the book, that Tesla, when he wanted to build his last place in Colorado Springs, wanted it on top of water. So water is a key, no matter how you cut it, whether it's the hydrogen gas that you're producing or something else, that the water energy is critical.
It's the key to the water management system used in all major pyramidal societies. And we have found, in terms of channeling water and controlling the ratios of the flow of water across the channels that were built, certain flow velocities for kinetic energies were created. Dynamic pressure heads were produced, and certain water dynamics allowed massive structures to be placed in perfect relationships.
Now, if you could, take us through how this works inside of the Great Pyramid and how everything works together to generate electricity and create gas. How does it actually work?
Well, we actually feel that it's more than just the Great Pyramid, but then it's spelled out pretty much of how it would work in the book of just the Great Pyramid. And the key there really is the Grand Gallery. And we have a picture. It's actually, if people get the book later on page 25, which is the Grand Gallery. And if you look at it, when you walk up there, there's these little
niches.
Yeah, niches, little cutouts on each side. And they're not right across from each other. So you'd have a niche here, then you walk a few, other steps. There's another niche on the other side. You walk a few more steps, you get the niche on the back, on the left side, the right side, the left side, the right side. Well, this is very similar to having anodes and cathodes, and scientists know what that is, in terms of creating an electrolyte or electrolyzer type of machine. And that's exactly what's going on right now for all the people that want to see better climate change and, stopping all the fossil fuels, there's two contenders. And I love Elon Musk and I love Tesla, and he thinks hydrogen is not the way to go. But hydrogen is the second way to go of technology. And you would be producing it by these electrolyzer machines, which is simply meaning you take chemistry like water and you break it down into gas. And you would be able to produce this hydrogen gas and put it into your cars. It's a little bit more expensive than we'll say battery cars, which is why they're not doing it everywhere, but it's starting to come out now as well. And, basically producing hydrogen gas is a great possibility for clean fuel. The only byproduct is water.
So the first step would be getting the water into the Great Pyramid. And I've often thought if this was the way, you would have to start with the bottom and go up, because that's where the river is. And then you would have the subterranean chamber as a starting place, right?
Right.
Yeah. And the idea, our co-author, James Brown, actually says that there's a way of bringing the energy in. All you really need, and we could be doing it right now, and some of them are doing it at gas stations and other places, like even in the Arab countries, they're starting to look at it. You only really need solar energy, and you need metals, and you need water. Those are the three basic elements. You have anode, cathode. Those can be iron. They can be something extremely simple, not a big deal, things that we know the Egyptians had. In fact, there's actually, we cited in the book a company that unfortunately went belly up, but it was called Aquion Energy, and they actually used cotton as a filter. So where's the best place for cotton but Egypt? Right. So anyway, and it's a great technology. It only went belly up because I think they didn't handle their business right. And one of the other companies picked it up and hasn't run with it too much. But it's a great technology of a battery storage using this kind of water energy.
So we give different illustrations of the structure of saltwater batteries that could have been used by the Egyptians. And we know from small models that we have found that the Egyptians were able to employ saltwater batteries and link them in parallel phase. And so they were able to amplify something that was quite specific in terms of the geology, in terms of the natural minerals of that particular area. The water management complex thus allowed for the building of a reservoir, which then was connected with different hydraulic pumps coming in and out of the Nile, and even feeding water into the other temples along the Nile, which allowed the Egyptian civil engineers to build quite uniquely the different levels at near perfect specifications.
And what would happen next? Okay, so we flood the subterranean chamber, the water level rises, and I always wondered about the ascending passageway, the descending passageway, well, it depends if you're going up or down, is perfectly straight, 3 feet square, utterly perfect. And if it was just going to be a tunnel, it wouldn't have to be made so perfect unless you needed to do something with it. Like this, where you would need the processes to be accurate. It wouldn't operate smoothly like any engine, right? If you take it out of spec, it's not going to run. But that passageway is utterly straight and perfect. And so the water would flood up into the passageway, and then what happens next?
Right, and I have to say that passageway, as you were pointing out, you can't walk down there. So, I mean, it's well, you can if you bend over. I mean, it's not as tall as a person. So, I mean, it's such a ridiculous thing unless it was a tube for water, so to speak. So it comes up, and then basically the energy starts going into the area of the grand gallery with these anodes and cathodes that create the electrolyzer. And that's basically what you need. From the king's chamber, he's proposing that there are certain elements like the hydrogen gas that's already there that's being used to generate some of this in connection with some of the solar power. And we say, look, we don't have all the answers on how they did this. We're just giving proposals, and we would love scientists listening right now to take a serious look at what we're saying and look at the book, of course, that's the key, and take a look and really come up with even more and more details.
In the year 2006, a German documentary was produced by Steven Erdmann entitled Cheops Lüge, or the Cheops Lie, where he argues against the fact that over a 20-year period, you have 250,000 conscripted slaves pushing blocks up a ramp. Now, he argues with 10 different European engineers and scientists that water hydraulics provided a pumping relationship on every level going up. And that's why you have a grid system based upon water containment, a swimming pool-like reservoir, which is the baseline.
Right.
And then you build upon this according to what we will call pumps or hydraulics that could be maintained.
JJ, let me jump back in again. And so many points need to be addressed here. I think it's very important that the descending passageway going to the subterranean chamber, if you are designing that for humans, you're going to design it so you can walk down, not hunch your back. And the other thing, I haven't been to the Great Pyramid. We're going to be doing that very soon, Rita and I. But that must be the most claustrophobic, insane-driven journey that one could take, right?
Exactly.
Well, I've actually talked to people. We had a friend that I ran into on the plateau one time. She goes, I'm claustrophobic. I can't get in there. So I said, you know what? Just go the little first part. That's where it's smaller. And as soon as you get into the Grand Gallery, it's much bigger, and then you don't feel claustrophobic anymore. And most people just do the ascending, the Grand Gallery, and then they go into the King's Chamber. That's pretty much the normal rung. It's very, very more difficult to go into the Queen's Chamber, and even much more difficult to go into the subterranean chamber, even though we've been down there ourselves several times.
You've talked in the past with Robert Schock and some of the great people. Robert is a dear friend of ours.
Sure.
But what people do not know, the Egyptian scientists that we talked to tell us that there was a retaining wall before the Sphinx that goes down quite a ways. And so the Egyptians were aware of the water dynamics that could erode or could destroy the foundations of other temples in that immediate process of the plateau.
And don't forget that at one point it always flooded, and that's why they put in the dam to stop the flooding. So we're talking, before the dam, obviously, and even way back when.
The electricity gets generated. Okay, so now we're creating something. If it was for something like the Dendera light bulb, by the way, I've been to Jason Martell's home many times, and right there in his living room, he's got that working model that you guys are talking about, and it's sitting right there. It's the most fascinating thing. I don't even want to talk to Jason. I just want to sit there for hours and look at his Dendera bulb. But so putting that aside, it certainly could be used for something else. Maybe it's a communication device. Maybe it's reaching out into the stars. Once you generate this electricity, what could it be used for? As a communication device, maybe, or some type of beacon?
Well, we're saying the Great Pyramid itself was that beacon and communication device, because when it was activated, it was obviously flowing with energy, and therefore it could have been. I think.
Well, let me just jump in and say that the Russians that we have worked with, Alexander Golod, for example, who has built 16 artificial pyramids, has found that the pyramidal structure, the geometry that is, assists the healing process. And the Russians have done some very significant work with synthetic materials built on the same angle as the Great Pyramid, but also different angles, and achieved great medical and psychological breakthroughs. It seems that the human mind tends to generate or be entrained by this particular type of geometry. It's native. In fact, Professor Tompkins at the University of California years ago came up with the understanding of how the pyramidal cells within our brain activate as energy transceivers. So this is the basic building block. If you're going to leave for future humanity anything on your planet that they could study, they would teach you the evolutionary process. It would be something in the shape of a pyramid.
Now, what do you think the sarcophagus, if you can call it that, in the King's Chamber was placed there for? Whether it's ascension or something else, we can put that to the side, but what about the possibility of the Ark of the Covenant being placed in there and all of this energy being used for something?
Exactly. So I think the University of Minnesota, well, at least had some claims that they had created the Ark of the Covenant something similar to it, and that it was like an energy device as well. So when you have the gold technology, when you have...
The gold overleaf technology for something that's 25 cubic units long, 1.5 cubic units in terms of its breadth, and 1.5 cubits in terms of its height using now the ancient Egyptian measurement. You have something, as you just said, that can contain the Ark of the Covenant, as it was known to the ancients in the book of Exodus. So we did some energy experiments with this, and in the new book, there was a picture of my toning inside the Great Pyramid, the Grand Gallery area, and all of a sudden there's a flashpoint where a standing column or wave of energy appears because of the electrification process of these energy points converging rapidly, and a standing column or wave fills the Grand Gallery with golden light for a fraction of a second, which illustrates again the idea that there was a type of vibratory physics that was used to create these areas that could hold and maintain and sustain energy vibrations for higher states of awareness and artistic excellence.
And so going back to the work of Itmo and St. Petersburg, I mean, if you show that there's a natural electromagnetic energy that flows there, plus you add the technology to, we'll say, dissociate water, and you don't have to completely dissociate water. We did a lot of work in Brown's gas, which is from Yule Brown, and right now they're using it for trucks. Many kids are using it for cars. They're getting better gas mileage just from a very simple, not complete breakdown of hydrogen and oxygen, and people are using it as well for their health. So there's different ways of using this hydrogen energy, and I think using it for health is a very key thing. They might have even thrown it out and put it on their agricultural states and had better yields. I mean, you have to feed people. That's important. What would you do?
Our colleagues call it earth milk, the fact that you create a sound and you create an energy field that feeds the body is nutriments.
If you were extraterrestrials and you were coming down here and wanting to help people, what would you try to do? You'd probably try to give them something that would help their agriculture, help their physical bodies, and keep life sustained. And so this could be one of those simple processes.
I want to stay on this water point because I think it's very well illustrated in the book, where each one of the temples at the end of each causeway, and it's not just on Giza, it's all the way down the Nile, and the connection with all of this, including the Serapeum too, as well. So let's take a break and let's just continue this wonderful conversation when we come back. Our guests tonight, JJ and Desiree Hurtak, Ph.D.s, and their new book, The Giza's Industrial Complex. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Hurricanes, earthquakes, wildfires. This year we've experienced more than our fair share. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and last month I decided to make sure my family does not have to worry about food should we get caught in a real emergency situation. Introducing Numana, a healthy, storable product that tastes so good that you'll want to eat it every day instead of just during those times of duress. All Numana products have a 25-year shelf life, are MSG and GMO-free, no preservatives, and are made in America. With the Numana pack in your home, you'll be able to sleep at night knowing that you've protected your family. Not only have I tasted and tested, I own it. Now you can too. Just click on the Numana banner on JimmyChurchRadio.com and use the promo code Jimmy when you order. In addition to a discount, we'll send you an autographed Fade to Black t-shirt. Seriously. Go Beckley Teppy. Do you want to be an official Fadernaut? Of course you do. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Just go to our membership section at JimmyChurchRadio.com. Introducing the new Surfer Music app. Listen, Fadernauts, you know I love my music. This is my go-to for all things notes. The Surfer app is a brand new concept in music listening.
Surfer is free, providing unlimited access to thousands of live streaming radio stations. Surfer is an exciting, interactive listening experience. Discovery and surprise are built right in. Surfer is your destination to discover and rediscover great live streaming music. It features high-quality audio streams, free access to music from thousands of live streaming radio stations, unlimited listening, unlimited skipping. You get a music visualizer, and you can also select your favorite channels. Get it at the Apple App Store or Google Play. Just search Surfer Music or click on the Surfer banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Go Beckley Tappy.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRAradio.com.
If you have hard water, the lime scale not only leaves white spots, it clogs pipes and breaks down appliances, costing you hundreds of dollars in energy and wear. Eliminate lime scale and other water issues like brown staining and bad odors with HydroCare water products available from Wave Home Solutions. Wave's affordable water systems don't use salts or chemicals. You'll love the way your water tastes, smells, and looks. Satisfaction guaranteed. For more information, go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
Are you intrigued by paranormal talk radio? You'll love the new paranormal radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the paranormal radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the paranormal radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. You can follow me on Twitter, at JChurchRadio. You can join in the conversation on Twitter right now. Hashtag F2B is the sandbox. Great stuff going on. And, of course, we have the two chat rooms open, one over at Spreaker and one at KGRA The Planet. And I wanted to ask you, too, are you on Twitter?
Yes.
And what's your Twitter handle?
I think it's Keys of Enoch. I'd have to look one more time.
Okay, Keys of Enoch. We'll get that up there on Twitter right now. Before we move on to the causeway and the access to the Nile and bringing water in, certainly at the temple complexes, which are at the end of each causeway. We'll talk about that in a second. But you mentioned something very interesting earlier, Desiree, which is the chevrons. And this is what has puzzled me over the years. They found those a very long time ago in antiquity, moving the stones, and they found the chevrons and those fabulous black and white pictures of those archaeologists back then standing there. But that was buried underneath, that was covered up. And I understand why they are where they are on that side of the pyramid. But wouldn't that indicate to you that there could be things just like this on each side of the pyramid that have not been discovered yet?
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, we do feel there's a few other chambers yet to be discovered. And, it's so hard. I know everyone who's ever come on your show and who's been to Egypt says that. You can't get anywhere usually. You can use ground-penetrating radar, and that's about it now, or muon waves. Very, very difficult to get the Egyptian authorities to allow you to even take fiber optic cable and, stick a little drill hole down. I mean, what Gantenbrink did going up the air shafts, and then after that, he couldn't do it anymore, and they passed it to someone else. It's just very difficult to get anything through there, and it's sad because there are ways of finding everything, but if you have ideas and people who say that there's nothing more to be found, it's just...
In our new book, we show sliding doors that were on the other pyramids, the Merkabah pyramid. We show also a glass chip that we found back in the 70s that had and still has a high radioactive level. We had privately analyzed by colleagues of mine at Jet Propulsion Lab in Los Angeles.
Right.
There's so many gemstones that are connected with the Great Pyramid. It's not only the pyramid, but what's under the pyramid, which is a whole complex, a whole school, a whole archive for all the great cultures in the Middle East that converge and send their information to Egypt, which is why Herodotus goes there, Homer, the great poet, goes there, Pythagoras, the great mathematician, goes there. All of the greats of Egypt, Greece, and Rome converge, even from the ancient Middle East, the Holy Land, is connected. In fact, if you look in the New Testament book of Revelation, chapter 11, verse 8, this is so important. It says Jesus was symbolically crucified along the Great Avenue. Well, what's along the Great Avenue? That's the Avenue of Kephren. That's what we were in, finding the tomb of Osiris. And Catholic Encyclopedia tells us Jesus is the type of Osiris who rises from the dead. So we find that in the open tomb that we discovered years ago, there is a psychological component suggesting look upwards. Look at the next phase of human evolution. You're grounded in the earth. You've got all of these water tributaries. You've got all of these supermassive monuments pointing to the heavens. Wake up and realize Schoolhouse Mother Earth is connected with the builders of the universe.
How do you... that's such a great point. And today and especially the last 10 years... the last 20 years of Hubble, the space telescope, we're just now figuring out what is out there. 75, 80 years ago, we thought the Milky Way was the universe, right? And it appears that the ancients knew as much about the stars in our solar system and the zodiac and what is going on out there than we did years later with modern technology. How is that possible unless they had information from off-planet?
Right, and I just want to say, I mean, you're 100% right, of course, about the no hieroglyphs in the Great Pyramid, but as I had mentioned earlier, those casing stones had writing but not hieroglyphics. So that's a real key, is like, it would have been from some other civilization prior, we'll say, to hieroglyphic writing. And this El Latif reported it could have been 10,000 pages of text. If you look at how big the Great Pyramid was and that it was written on all around it, I mean, that's a massive amount of coding and information.
I'd like to give a little proverb here. Technology changes everything, even our dreams. And the Egyptians had a type of thought form technology they believe they received from the higher worlds that allowed them to create what I will call future artifacts. The pyramid is a future artifact. As mathematical analysis of the Great Pyramid shows us, there are too many things there suggesting a whole generation of Einsteins working together to create this amazing industrial complex.
So if I can talk a little bit about the technology today, you have these young people all over the world, especially in France and in Europe, really fighting for a better climate. Well, we're saying that hydrogen energy is one of those technologies. Now, granted, currently most hydrogen energy is actually using horrible stuff, fossil fuels even, to create the hydrogen gas. The electrolyzer is the way to go, and some companies are even using a special membrane to speed up the process. But a new technology, and this just came out the last 24 hours. We're up here by Stanford, actually, and salt water actually can be used as well. And they've been trying to figure out, they've been doing this for the last 3 to 5 years, we mentioned a little bit in the book, is if they could put salt water in to process all you need is solar energy, the anodes and cathodes, which could be as simple as copper and iron, very, very simple things. And now Stanford just came out with a special nickel, which if you use salt water, usually it corrodes. And they said, mostly these processes would only last like 12 hours. But with this new technology that just came out, literally March 20th, from a Stanford team, they said that by using the researcher Michael McKenney, that if you process with this new nickel foam that they created, you could have 1,000 hours in a small electrolyzer plant to create hydrogen gas. So we're changing the whole technology, and hydrogen stations are going in all over Canada. They're going in places like Iceland, and even California is starting to push for hydrogen gas. And you have the Mirai, which is the Toyota car. And the only pollution really, in some cases, can be a little bit of a nitrogen, but it's mostly water, if you make it the right way. So, I want to say that and you can stack it, and I think that's one of the keys on the technology. Instead of just looking at one little box that a high school student can make, you stack it, you stack it, you stack it, you can actually come up with megawatts of power.
There's so many wonderful breakthroughs right around the corner. We have to understand what is being found here. We're opening the back door to history and realizing that why behind the mythology there's a scientific civilization. We're opening the front door to future evolution. We're realizing that we're connecting with the cosmic cultures through the testimony of former astronauts, cosmonauts, and even indigenous elders that we've talked to who explain these strange lights that hover above their villages, giving them the sense that we are a part of the electrification of matter. We are being prepared psychologically, we are being prepared sociologically, and we are being prepared through frustrations with the political paradigms that don't work to find the capstone within ourselves. And that's the open tomb. We have to come out of this tomb feeling that everything is in a black box. Everything is simply a part of history in the past tense.
Right. And if I can go back for 1 minute regarding Aqueon Energy, as I mentioned, this company was then bought out, unfortunately, by a company that then wants to develop it in China. But it was basically using electrochemical energy storage. So it was actually a battery system, which is something that really people are looking forward to everywhere, including Elon Musk. And it uses a saltwater electrolyte. And so it's amazing, amazing technology that simply uses a manganese oxide cathode, a synthetic synthetic cotton separator, so that's typical of Egypt, and carbon titanium phosphate anode. These are all can be adjusted, of course, and you had a perfect battery system. Now, you would say, where in Egypt do you get salt water? Well, you would have to go all the way up to the Nile area, but in addition to that, down by El Fayum. And this is a picture we have in the book. It's a very rare picture. It's from a Russian book that we were gifted. And there was a lake, an artificial lake.
145 miles in circumference.
With two huge pyramids in the middle of the lake. And this is really, I think, the key to what really turned us on to the technology. And as high as those pyramids were out of the water, they supposedly also went into the water. And there's a canal that goes between the Nile and that lake, which is called Lake Morris today. It's smaller than it used to be. And that's called the Joseph Canal. And some people say maybe that was one of the Josephs from the tribes of Israel. And it goes right through, right by the El Fayum pyramid that has this huge labyrinth.
And let me explain this labyrinth that Desiree is referring to, and even Herodotus, the ancient historian, has 3,000 chambers, which, as far as we are concerned, could be 3,000 compartments of a saltwater battery system, providing really the energies that were necessary to run that part of Egyptian society. We've been able to go under the earth, do the probing with Polish, with German, Swiss, and American scientists, and actually show proof of principle. So what we're saying here on the air, we have pictures of. We have actually film of being there before Zahi Hawass claimed to have found the tomb. We were there 2 years before.
The Tomb of Osiris.
The Tomb of Osiris means the opening of knowledge of a scientific civilization and putting on the reality that we are the caretakers of this that will bring humanity together if we play our cards, our spiritual philosophy correctly.
Now, back to the temples that were at the end of each causeway that were on the edge of the Nile River. Were these part of the electrical grid?
Well, we believe nothing else they were storage vessels. Some were storage, and some also, like this labyrinth, and no one's found the labyrinth. We have friends that had actually done ground-penetrating radar on 3 sides of the Al Fayoum. They found Hellenistic artifacts. They found mummies, or we'll say
gold face masks.
Gold face masks and things like that. But they were actually not able to find the labyrinth, even though it was reported by at least two historians at the time. So these would be small cubicles. And as I mentioned, in hydrogen energy, you actually stack the fuel cells. And so each fuel cell produces something like 0.7 volts or something like that. But can you imagine having 3 floors, 1,000 fuel cells each, you'd be running a complete power point. That's exactly what a power generating system would be all about today.
And the same thing with the Serapeum?
Well, the Serapeum, we think, was a storage facility because
with 24 boxes, or what they call tombs, we feel that they were storage devices for other purposes, each weighing some 80 tons plus, that are arranged in a very unique grid pattern also that no one can explain. It's certainly not the bones of the so-called Apis bowl or the sacred bowl is found in these containers. No, to the contrary, there are certain aspects of the shape and the size and the quality of the fabrication of these boxes showing a high pneumatic technology had been used to shape the depth, the size, and the perfection of all the interior angles.
Now we're talking about hydrogen gas, very safe, safe in the sense if you manage it properly, of course. And but our co-author, James Brown, when he was there, he actually picked up, as Dr. Hurtak mentioned, this unique amulet that had a gamma ray radiation from his Geiger counter. He actually noticed it because he was totally into checking everything out like that. And so there's a possibility, and we don't get into it in too much depth, that they also had some sort of, we'll say, technique to be able to produce some sort of nuclear stones and we'll say elements, particles. Nowadays, nuclear power plants are looking at transforming their power plants into hydrogen operating plants. That's something that's going on right now in terms of technology. But bottom line is that they may have used some of those cavities or those tombs to actually store some of the gas or even some of the elements that they were producing.
And the size and the depth suggest something similar to the underground caverns in Sweden that were used for the storage of nuclear trace materials. I'm looking at a publication called Nuclear Technology Review for the year 2006 by the IAEA, that is to say the Institute for Atomic Energy, and looking at the publication from the United Nations, clearly we have various examples of storage areas, underground pools that were used for the elements to be diffused, encapsulated in different situations of containment. So we're looking at something that may throw a light also on the Egyptian experimentation with quote-unquote radiation technology, something that perhaps they were telling us was not the way to go, and therefore they buried it, and they left behind these samples that we're now finding. I am told that the French also were able to find some examples of radiation in the vicinity of the Great Pyramid. So we have a lot of unique documentation which we want to bring into discussion in future conversations with you, showing the actual pictures, showing the actual scientific tests that we did very carefully with the international body of scientific investigators.
The air shafts, which I understand and appreciate the alignments to the heavens and using different star charts and going back with computer technology and looking at those alignments, it's shocking at the dating and what it is aligning up to. I totally get that. But could those have also been used for the intake of oxygen
for part of this process too, or the ejection of gases out of the Great Pyramid.
Right. So actually, that's what our co-writer actually theorized, that he calls them exhaust shafts.
Yes. Right.
Term. And so, yes, that's a good possibility that they were able to release some of the fumes and things like that as needed. And in addition to that, in the Great Pyramid, there's actually a type of channel from the Grand Gallery down to the subterranean passage, and that also in itself could have been a drain system. Today they call it, there's a kind of a descending passageway that goes down between the ascending and the descending passage. So that could have been a drain. The whole technology, I mean, it needs...
can you imagine engineering 33 meters below the surface of the Earth, 110 feet plus, the lighting system that had to be used underground to make these perfect networks? We're talking about at least 3 miles of underground passages in the immediate Giza plateau area where we're working.
Yeah, and JJ,
of these places.
That's right. And JJ, you bring up one of the best points, and you clearly illustrated in the book. We always look at the side view of the Great Pyramid, right? When you look at the front view and you look at how everything is perfectly centered and perfectly aligned, that's pretty mind-blowing. But that descending connecting passage that Desiree was just talking about, you don't just create that. You know, how do you engineer something like that where it is actually going to connect, right? It's actually going to line up. And what is the purpose of that when you've got the passages already connecting further up? There's a reason, a very specific reason for that perpendicular connecting passageway between, is it the Grand Gallery or is it the passageway to the Queen's Chamber that connects to the ascending?
It's right at that nexus. Right?
Yeah, it is.
That nexus point. Yeah. And again, for those who are listening to this program who don't have the book, let's think of also the star shafts, one going to Orion, one going to Alpha Draconis, or the circumpolar stars, one shaft standing for the electrification of matter, and one basically for the containment or the entropy of matter. And so you have descriptively in the pyramid a whole energy diagram of basically how we are connected with the stars, with cosmic oscillations, the precession of the equinoxes, and of course, what is the granddaddy, which is the realm of Orion mentioned in the book of Job in the Old Testament, and also obliquely in other texts throughout the world, major cultures also aligning their pyramids with the constellation we call Orion. And this relationship of the star shafts with the 3 stars in the belt of Orion was something we published in the Keys of Enoch 20 years before Robert Lavelle published his book and proved our hypothesis. And so what we're saying here, after 45 years, we have a grand blueprint of disclosure of the origins of civilization in Egypt, one that will shake really the socks of the skeptics. And to boot, I should say, to add additional ammunition, we have scholars like Elizabeth Rauscher, a nuclear physicist who's worked with us, the remote sensing, who was able to detail what we were finding in Egypt over 6,000 kilometers away underground by simply using the power of mind over matter. So we have one of the best networks of team association looking at what this really means in terms of a cosmic evolutionary chart.
Right, Jimmy. So I just want to go back and say that it was really the well shaft that goes, and that's what I was talking about. It really looks like a place where water would have flown through. They say it was like an escape route, but I wouldn't go down that if I was trying to escape. But anyway, so it's right where the ascending passage and the Grand Gallery and the Queen's Chamber meet, and then it doesn't go straight down even. It goes at an angle down to the subterranean chamber. So it's the well shaft, and that is that drain point that would have also been like an exhaust for the technology we're talking about tonight.
Yeah, I agree with that. And also it could be used as the water level rose. It could be a gauge to stop at a specific point where the water would be rising to. And that's just me visualizing with my mechanical male side of my brain. It feels like that could be connected to water levels. But Desiree, you brought up a good point, and before we get to this break, I want to go back. We keep going back. We've covered so much. Going back to Gatenbrink,
each one of these air shafts or star shafts, the two that actually leave the Great Pyramid, but Gatenbrink's didn't. And what that indicates to me is that blockage of that passageway is purposeful. Why would they block it unless it was a block that was moved for something? I think that shaft continues on the other side. I don't think it goes to a room. That would have been cool if it did, or another chamber. But I think they were closing and opening that air shaft, and that there is something there, a room for somebody to work in to open and close that shaft to continue the process.
Yes, we had a 45-minute conversation with Rudolf Gantenbrink after the Egyptians refused him to go back a second time with the Upuaut robotic system that he developed, and he also agreed that there was obviously a door that was movable, just like we found in other locations and other temples and pyramids.
Right.
That obviously was hinting at something in terms of an upward outer thrust of geometric design.
But if everyone remembers that great video that they showed, so you're going up this really small shaft, something like 8 inches or whatever, just enough for the small little, gadget to get up there. And then you come up on this little square door with 2 little metal handles.
Yes.
Or copper handles. Why would you ever have that in the middle of nowhere? So you can imagine what must be on the other side. And then they poked through and they found like another doorway.
Right. So I'll suppose something right now. Those 2 little metal whatever they are, right? But that also says to me, and the first time I saw it, is electricity. Right, that those could be connections. That's a positive and a negative. And I'm just saying that's what I see. I don't see a handle. I don't see anything. There isn't really a purpose for it unless it's an electrical connection, almost like a plug.
Yeah, well, that's what you would have actually in the Grand Gallery. You would have, but huge, and they would have been gone now. You don't even have the casing stones anymore, practically. So, no one saw those little, we'll say, I'll call them handles, up a star shaft until Gantenbrink got there. Otherwise, they would have robbed them a long time ago. But, can you imagine having huge anodes on one side and cathodes on the other, copper and iron and flash, going like what you're talking about all the way up the Grand Gallery? I mean, you have an energy technology there, and hydrogen really is showing us, and we are moving into hydrogen. It's really between Elon Musk and batteries or hydrogen technology and Toyota right now. That's our choices, and both technologies are moving forward, and that's why this is so timely.
So what does this mean? We postulate that the Great Pyramid is a model of a cosmic, planetary, ecological humanity. It's a model of our evolution. It is a model that is a part of a schooling of our inner dynamic to be activated, utilizing the energies of Mother Earth to recreate the environmental ethos, environmental conditions that we absolutely need as we move on to the next chapter of interplanetary growth and experience. It is the ideal symbol of evolution.
Well, when we come back, let's continue that conversation, JJ. That is an excellent point that we need to keep bringing up. What is the ultimate purpose here? Let's come back right after this short break. Our guest tonight, JJ and Desiree Hurtak, Ph.D.s, and their new book, Giza's Industrial Complex. Right back after this. Stay with us.
Hi everybody, this is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Poor water quality is a major health issue, and it's only getting worse. Municipalities can't keep up, standards have dropped, and pollutants are increasing. Where does it all end? It ends by keeping the pollutants outside of your home with HydroCare's advanced systems available at Wave Home Solutions. No less than the best purification materials and processes have been developed by HydroCare to provide you with healthy, clean water for drinking, cooking, and showering. HydroCare far surpasses the competition in removing chlorine, odors, iron, lead, chemicals, limescale, and much more. Don't settle for less when it comes to your water. We'll take care of the toughest water problems for you, whether it's from a city or well source. Satisfaction guaranteed. For more information, call 888-997-WAVE. That's 888-997-WAVE. Or go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
Your contact for current news and trending topics. KGRAradio.com.
Does your basement or crawl space have a damp, musty smell? Well, watch out. That's a sign of too much moisture and not enough ventilation. And that can mean increased mold growth and the buildup of harmful toxins and gases. Don't bother with a dehumidifier. It just circulates the same unhealthy air. Now there's a better way to remove these dangers and odors. It's with the computerized Wave Moisture Control Unit that reduces moisture and expels pollutants.
We replaced our old dehumidifier with the Wave unit, and in only 3 weeks, our basement is dry and the musty smell is gone.
Wave units require no maintenance, no buckets of water or filters, and costs only pennies a day to run. Breathe better, live healthier with an affordable, no-maintenance Wave unit. Call 888-717-WAVE, 888-717-WAVE, or visit dryhealthyhome.com, dryhealthyhome.com.
Ride the wave. Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I only drink Fade to Black blend coffee from Rivermoon. Just click on the Rivermoon coffee banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Promo code F2B blend.
So are you tired of being tired? Well, then it's time to get the tea. Hey, it's Lisa here to tell you about this all-natural, all-organic tea I've been drinking that has had great results for over 20 years. It's called Life Change Tea, and it's specially formulated to help detoxify and cleanse your kidneys, liver, colon, and blood all at once. The colon is one of the most ignored organs in the human body. The faster that waste is eliminated from the body, the less time that waste sits in our intestines, spreading toxins to our bloodstream. This tea helps cleanse chemicals caused by outside intruders from our entire digestive system. And get this, weight loss can be a side effect. And with continued use of the tea, you can experience clearer, healthier, younger looking skin, increased energy, and a happier outlook on life. So if you're tired of being tired, get the Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. And like me, you'll be glad you did.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of Fade to Black by just calling 605-562-4482. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Just call 605-562-4482. You can listen to me, Jimmy Church, on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Go Beckley Tappy.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why Fade to Black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. An amazing conversation tonight with Doctors JJ and Desiree Hurtak and their new book, Giza's Industrial Complex. This is Fade to Black. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. And now, we discussed earlier, JJ, you brought up the spirituality side of the capstone, which is where I'm going to go next. But what this conversation reminds me of, it's really funny. You remember in the movie Stargate, in the beginning, when James Spader is giving his presentation at the museum, and somebody raises their hand, and they're like, okay, that's all cool. All right, but who built the Great Pyramid, right? And he said, well, you know, and everybody gets up and leaves.
Today, it's not that kind of party. You guys have presented some very compelling, comprehensive information in this book, and we're starting to get those answers. And watching the conversation right now on Twitter, it's absolutely amazing, and I want to thank you for that, and the book is really, really good. That being said, the capstone, and I understand where you were going earlier, JJ, with the spirituality side of it. But where is that capstone today? Where did it go?
Well, the models in the Cairo Museum of the Pyramidion, as it's often called, as a small model of the capstone, suggest that capstone represents mathematically something that's in another level of future science. That capstone represents not what we physically have, but what we have through the power of our thoughts, energizing a type of new frontier. And we can look for the capstone like we can look for the Ark of the Covenant and miss the whole point.
Right.
These are meta-symbols or architectural realities of a whole new architecture of ongoing creation. And in so many words, we are all coming out of Egypt. We are all being prepared for an interplanetary exodus to higher realms of creation. And that is why I believe the Great Sphinx next to the Great Pyramid represents the face of humanity, utilizing solar energy, which was exemplified in the body of the lion. The lion sun, or the lion logos for the ancient world, was the source of electrification. When we would be energized to that point of putting our face on the face of the lion or the Sphinx, then we could take off for other realms. Then we could do the exodus through the Red Sea, which is the solar spectrum. Then we could understand the symbolism of the heavenly mansion worlds that the Christ figure refers to,
right,
and all the great prophets refer to. So in essence, it's coming out of three-dimensional bondage or slavery to the old pharaonic system of information without freedom, information without compassion, information without wisdom.
Right, but the capstone could also be really almost like a beacon. Dr. Hurtak, in his book, The Keys of Enoch, and I know we'll put this into a little bit more of a spiritual content, calls the Great Pyramid a chrono-monitor, which means everything that's going on this planet, and it seems like that with this electromagnetic energy that ITMO University has come out with or shown is inside the Great Pyramid naturally, really it becomes a energy corridor, almost like if you look at Orion, and you take a look at it, it's almost like two pyramids. You got one pyramid coming down, the other pyramid going up. And we feel that there's like an energy connected with our pyramid going up into other realms that are able to tap into this. So it's almost like creating this vortex of energy that's
you actually
naturally.
see this in shamanistic art in the country of Colombia in South America, of how the lower part of the Orion constellation. Remember, Orion represents the hunter or the swordsman in the sky.
That's right.
Who has the sword to kill the bull or to control, as it were, the animal instinct or nature. It represents for the indigenous two sacred geometries converging at the belt. And what is the belt? Is the reality of a whole new threshold where we go from the third dimension to multiple higher dimensions.
And actually what became very unique is Dr. had this unique experience in 1973, and he saw how Orion really is a gateway to higher realities, to higher dimensions. So he actually said he went through the gateway, the three stars of Orion. Now, more recently in Mexico,
we're talking paraphysical.
Yeah,
and I actually want to address the physical side of this too as well. But continue, Desiree.
Yeah, well, in Mexico, Linda Shelley, who was an astroarchaeologist, she's now deceased, sadly, but she said that the Mexicans also put 3 stones in their hearth, and they considered that as looking at their father figure in Orion. So you have the Mayans talking about Orion, and you also have the Egyptians talking about Orion, and you basically have even the Australian Aboriginals talking about Orion. So it's a big constellation, but the geometry we're seeing, and I know you wouldn't be seeing that if you were on the other side of maybe an Alpha Centauri or something like that, but there's certain type of pyramidal geometry that's present in Orion.
Now, that's the spiritual side. But what about an actual physical transformation? That sarcophagus and the energy being created, before I even say Stargate or teleportation, but it could be used for something like that, couldn't it?
Yes, in fact, my experience in 1973 was when I was bilocated through energy frequencies as a musician, and we have, Desiree and I, put out several albums worldwide, CDs, one of which is The Living Capstone, with noted musicologist Paul Thomas Burns, showing how certain Egyptian mantras and Hebrew mantras, when they're combined properly, can create a momentary experience of being in a higher state of creativity.
Right. Also, it's called The Opening of the Great Pyramid, where we actually have sounds recorded in different chambers in the Giza Plateau and also in Abydos. So, but what's interesting is, yes, I mean, I always love Stargate, and there's a good possibility that with the proper resonant patterns that would be created, maybe with the right energy technologies, that you could re-energize the body. Maybe not bringing death to life, but maybe, that's the whole story behind Osiris, that his brother Set cut him up, put him into 14 pieces, and Isis brought him back together and allowed him to give birth temporarily to Horus. So there's the whole theory of resurrection actually there. And in addition to that, what people don't know is in the legends of Osiris, he actually went around the world and taught people. So and he taught through music. So there's a vibratory background to all of this, and we'll go back to the idea of the Mysteries of the Sphinx, the video documentary, that maybe having the technology to resonate the blocks into place was a possibility as well, not just resurrecting.
So if those who are interested, go to our website, keysofenoch.org, and scroll down. You will see various musical programs that we've been involved with key musicians and composers throughout the world, all who have had higher states of consciousness through certain types of vibratory interactions, what we would say in the new physics, the physics of consciousness, the paraphysics. We put out a book, excuse me if I can continue, we put out a book called Mind Dynamics, of Elizabeth Rauscher, dealing with all of the research that was done at Stanford Research Institute here in California with the top physicists, showing how this is possible, how one can accelerate higher levels of consciousness and literally step into another dimensional frame, receive information, come back into the physical, quote-unquote, real world of why we're in the third dimension. Nonetheless, we're beginning to understand how physical matter is gravitationally trapped light. And as we re-energize ourselves through bioluminations or bioenergy accumulations, suddenly things for some can take off.
Is there a danger in firing up the Great Pyramid again? You know what I mean? Is there too much?
Put it all back together, but I don't think so. Look at the massive amount of stone. That's the incredible thing. So you really have a containment that's beyond any kind of nuclear power plant that we've ever built. So, and even though we're not trying to create nuclear energy in any way, shape, or form, I'm just saying the containment vessel that it is itself would be absolutely fine. I think if you ever, had all the pieces come back together, and who knows, at some point, in maybe not in our lifetime, but in the next one, they'll be doing that.
Yeah, some accidental movement of a stone in the tomb of Osiris, right, underneath the Sphinx, and suddenly water starts pouring in, right? The subterranean chamber fills up, and the next thing you know, everything aligns, and Gate and Brink's door opens, and we've got a meltdown on the Giza Plateau.
Sadly, though, we have the dam that blocks the water to flow as strongly as it did in the distant past.
Unfortunately, we've got the film that we made underground when we found the tomb of Osiris before Zahi Hawass got involved. So we've got the pristine actual film scenario of finding this underground connection.
Right.
And also using ground-penetrating radar to realize that there's a connecting network of rooms that connect with the subchambers. So who built this? Why is it so elaborate? Well, in many ways, it's a schoolhouse for the soul, for the human psyche, for the human imagination, to understand how the pieces fit together, from not only from Egypt, but also, as Desiree said, from the other energy points of Mother Earth.
And we talk about along the Nile going all the way down towards Luxor and Dendera, where you have the light bulb. But we also have a picture in our book of Hethert in Dendera, which is a place where there was literally a lake, and people could go into this lake. I mean, it's really just a like a big swimming pool, and they would have dreams and strange things would happen. So we feel the water literally was energized, and they do call it today, the Russians at least call it energized water, and it really can transform. And I think people should acknowledge the power. You advertise tea all the time. Well, obviously there's certain elements in these powers of tea or water that actually can transform your body. And so I think it's very important to realize it also can transform your mind when you are engulfed in it.
Here's the $1 million question, and we can close with this because this is going to take a few minutes. Why suppress this information? 1, 2, does Cairo possess this information, and do they understand what the Giza complex is all about, or do they not understand it? And if they do, why suppress it? What's the advantage of keeping all of this from us?
Well, obviously, there's pros and cons on both sides of that. And I just want to say that we're excited about what is happening in our field of technology. And we've been members of the Hydrogen Energy Society since the 1970s with international conferences. So that technology of really understanding how it could work, and even with salt water now just coming out from Stanford and other places in the last few years, and in the last days even, this is all just growing into our mindset. But on the other hand, the idea that there are these underground passageways that really they have not wanted people to get into, they haven't wanted so much research to take place. This has been a limitation, and it's mostly because they don't know how to handle that. I mean, everything that they see comes from the last, we'll say,
6,000 years. And so the three monolithic religions in the Middle East would have to change their calendar system of thinking that the world, or what we would call intellectual/religious civilization, goes back only 6,000 years.
Right.
We're saying to the contrary, that our Bible, whether you take it in the Aramaic, the Hebrew, the Greek, or the Coptic, or whatever language, is a symbolic code of a higher consciousness science of divine purpose, divine presence, and divine compassion.
And we'll say what you say, Göbekli Tepe, because we've been there.
We love Göbekli Tepe in Turkey.
And that goes back, of course,
16,000 years before present. And we've been looking underground to see these marvelous stelas that have inscriptions of a different cosmology.
But if you go south of the Great Pyramid, actually, you find Napta, which is a stone circle, and it's right at the border of
Sudan and Egypt.
Yeah, and that they're dating back to 8,000 years. They think that there may be some alignments also with Orion connected with that.
So it's the historic paradigm that has to shift.
And then you go straight down even further. You come into the Zimbabwe ruins, and you go a little bit further down. You come into what Michael Tillinger and we visited Adam's Calendar and some of the stone circles that are all over South Africa. We actually have an organization in South Africa, so we spent a lot of time there. You mentioned Credo Mutwa because we've worked with him since the 80s. He's very familiar with all those circles. So that's an alignment. That's a north-south alignment from the Great Pyramid. It's not happenstance. None of this is just a nice tomb in some location.
So we've worked with scientists and Egyptologists from Ain Shams University in Cairo. Most of them are privately interested in pushing the envelope and finding new evidence and going beyond the classical Egyptology that closes the door rather than opens the door to all of the other disciplines coming together. But this has to be done very carefully, which is why this has taken more than 40 years for us to assemble all of the information, because there's so much in so many different directions. It's like a crystal, a palace, or a portal, shall we say, to the house of many mansions.
But it's exciting because we're basically, all of us, and you as well, Jimmy, are rewriting history with what we're doing. And it's taking a lot of dinosaurs wagging their tails, down with us because they don't want to come out with saying, yes, there was a greater technology. Yes, people were here 60,000 years ago, or how about in San Diego 120,000 years ago with the mastodon bones? They don't even know if it's humans or Neanderthals that were there. I mean, it's really a big leap. And Dr. Hurtak was told this in the Keys of Enoch that since 73, they're actually feeding us information so we can be prepared and have the technology and the understanding so that we can actually meet our cosmic cousins in space.
This is why your program is so important, that you are the flagship of getting people to look at the myth behind the myth or the science behind the science of why we're seeing so much converge at this point that requires a higher positive psychology, a deeper spirituality, a deeper compassion from our hearts, rather than seeing the tragedy of society go 10 different directions without understanding the capstone principle that we all represent as builders of a new civilization.
Well, I appreciate that. And I want to remind you, too, a couple of years ago when we did that excellent panel at Contact in the Desert. Remember that? We had 2,000 people in front of us.
Right.
And the question about, I brought up Napta Playa. And everybody, including yourself, we all started talking about the importance of Napta Playa. And then, and we also discussed Göbekli Tepe, right? All of us at that point. It's funny that we bring them both up tonight. But I want to remind the audience, and I want your comments on this, is that Napta Playa was something that wasn't really supposed to exist, that kind of technology 7,000, 8,000 years ago. Göbekli Tepe wasn't supposed to exist. But Napta Playa, Robert Bivol and JJ, I think you brought it up, they moved it.
That's right.
They moved Napta. How do you move one of the most important archaeological sites on this planet, which was a compass and calendar in the middle of a desert that was part of a high-tech civilization, and pull it up and move it out of the desert, unless you intentionally wanted to suppress something? And that blew my mind.
Well, the question is, how much did they move it? I know that they wanted to move some things. Oh, they did that to the Mastodon.
And also, Göbekli Tepe, they deliberately buried it so that various tribes and societies, pirate societies, would not come around and destroy the stelas and the capsulizations that contain the various seeds for agricultural stages of growth. All of that was carefully concealed at Göbekli Tepe at several different locations, yet to be uncovered. So, again, there's a mystery to the power system of the normal power regime. It wants to keep things in check for human evolutionary containment.
Yeah, well, the Napta Playa really was supposed to be, and it still is somewhat located on the Tropic of Cancer. And you go over to Mexico, and you find around all of these tropic areas, and of course the Great Pyramid also is located in a great position between the equator and the North Pole. And so are some of these others. You find these markers. And, of course, one could say, it was just the ancients trying to figure out the solar cycle, but there's so much more behind it to make so many stone circles. You don't need that just for a sundial.
No, so this world grid system here that we're uncovering, it's not simply the pyramid, but also the other pyramids and their grid systems, all interconnected.
There's 7 pyramids that were found on the Mauritius Islands, too, which isn't that far off of South Africa. It's amazing what they're finding all over the world. All this is being opened for us to talk about on your radio station, of course.
Yes, and see, this is what is most important here, is that 25 years ago, before the internet, they were able to control the dialogue, right? You had books, maybe some videotape before that, just books. Before that, you had to shout out the window. Right? Today, it's not that way, and they can't control the flow of information now, and we are starting to figure this out. We know that there were civilizations before 3000 BC that had amazing technology, that the world didn't start in Giza, it didn't start in Greece, it didn't start in Rome, and quite possibly not even ancient Sumer. That when you look at the Edfu Builder's text, it clearly states 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000 years ago, right? That this information was shared and handed down for millennia.
Yeah, Dr. Hurtak went to Yonaguni, which is right off the coast of southern Japan, and looked at those underwater structures there. And we are working with people in Australia that have confirmed that people were there 60,000 years ago, and some even claim longer. I was looking at the Napta. I think what really happened in the Napta Playa is that it was somewhat ransacked and stolen by some vandals. So that's really, I think, what the biggest complaint. So you're never going to see any more exactly where those stones were positioned.
Yeah,
also in East Africa, we're doing a lot of work, and I'm proud to say that we've been able, out of the grid system we published in 1973 in the Keys, to identify 8 of the 12 systems, namely meridians running from north to south, that are key pyramidal centers of architectural information or ancient knowledge or contact points with other areas of civilization. We are beginning to wake up out of amnesia. The human race has been in amnesia, and we need to wake up and smell the coffee, or to understand the higher meaning of the Eucharist, the cosmic Christ, rather than simply follow ritual for the sake of ritual.
When we can I ask you guys a favor? Can we do a few extra minutes of overtime after this break?
Yeah, we're here.
Okay, because I actually want to talk a little bit about UFOs. Can we do that when we come back after the break?
Absolutely.
Okay, so now that I got that out of the way, let's go back to what we're talking about. When it comes to Göbekli Tepe, as I just mentioned, conventional Orthodox academia is going to continue on their path, which is 3000 BC is it, nothing before. Göbekli Tepe shows up clearly at 12,000 BC. There was some pretty high-tech action going on, and by an organization and a culture that understood art and engineering and society. Why isn't this the most famous story on this planet right now?
Well, first of all, I talked to Klaus Schmidt before he died. He was the top German investigator at Göbekli Tepe. He said it was, before he died, 16,000 years before present. That's 5 times the normal time set we give to the Egyptian period of the classical pyramids.
Right.
Why this is such an overwhelming breakthrough is it boggles the mind to reset the calendar back so many centuries, so many thousands of years before the acceptable movements of thought of normal European intellectual history. Secondly, because of the, shall we say, imbalance of religiosity in certain parts of the Middle East, with the extremists clinging to traditions of hostility, the information that would bring people together is not really sought after by those in high places. And so our work is to use archaeology and musicology and cosmology as a way of showing the unity of the human race, because this is built into the whole geometry of life. We are discovering that man is in the divine partnership, the divine dance. As your guest last night said, we are in a simulated, synergistic, orchestrated form of creation that's continuing to go on.
And I just want to say the mathematics of Göbekli Tepe is really what shocks people. First of all, not only do you have 20 to 60 ton stones, but you have almost like spiral, we'll say, Fibonacci patterns, the golden means patterns, which actually we see in the whole universe as far as we're concerned.
Sure.
And you also find, similar mathematics also in the Great Pyramid, because you could have both pi and phi. So, these are mathematical relationships that really show us, and it would have been very, very hard for all these, and they've only uncovered 2 or 3 or 4 of these, like what I call flowers of Göbekli Tepe, but they feel the whole field is full of these stones. They just need to dig them out. It's amazing. And what do you do with that? Especially when you come from a history that is only supposed to be begun 6,000 years ago.
I want to say this before we head to the break, that I will continue to push the Göbekli Tepe issue. I'm not going to let this go until we get a response. But our audience, because I do this so often, JJ and Desiree, that I speak about Göbekli Tepe so often that they now drink every time a guest says Göbekli Tepe. So you guys are responsible for a pretty good party going on out there with the Fade to Black audience. Let's take a break right here. When we come back, let's talk UFOs. We've got to do this. I'm going to take the opportunity to do that with the both of you. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Email, of course, is Jimmy@JimmyChurchRadio.com. This is the Game Changer Network and Fade to Black. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
to my boy, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
Hurricanes, earthquakes, wildfires. This year we've experienced more than our fair share. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and last month I decided to make sure my family does not have to worry about food should we get caught in a real emergency situation. Introducing Numana, a healthy, storable product that tastes so good that you'll want to eat it every day instead of just during those times of duress. All Numana products have a 25-year shelf life, are MSG and GMO-free, no preservatives, and are made in America. With the Numana pack in your home, you'll be able to sleep at night knowing that you've protected your family. Not only have I tasted and tested, I own it. Now you can too. Just click on the Numana banner on JimmyChurchRadio.com and use the promo code Jimmy when you order. In addition to a discount, we'll send you an autographed Fade to Black t-shirt. Seriously, go Beckley Tappy. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I take Life Change Tea supplements every single day. It's what I do. Click on their banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roasted to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Tappy.
Hi, folks. CBD is the home run hitter for health right now. Why, you ask? Because of what it does for the body. Unfortunately, I can't tell you all about the benefit. You know, there's reasons. Do your due diligence and log on to AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Ancient Life Oil uses organic ingredients and is blended in coconut oil for some of the best benefits. Legal in 50 states and non-psychoactive. Log on to AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and my family is safe because of Numana Emergency Food Storage. Just go to the Numana banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com. Promo code Jimmy10.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
This is Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. We're moving into some overtime tonight with JJ and Desiree Hurtak. I knew this was going to happen. I knew it. I told them earlier we're going to run out of time, and we did. So let's change gears. We've been talking about their new book, Giza's Industrial Complex. And again, I'll hold it up for the cameras here. I highly recommend it. Go and get it. Their websites are futurescience.org and keysofenoch.org, and the links are over at jimmychurchradio.com. But now I want to take this opportunity to talk about UFOs. And if you could, either one can jump in. But could you share with our audience any conversation that you might have had with Edgar Mitchell about UFO sightings and or, ET encounters that he may have had either on the moon or around the Earth?
Yes, first of all, I was very close to Edgar Mitchell. Desiree and I are a member of the board of IONS, which is a branch of the IONS, the Noetic Sciences group that he put together after he came back from his outer space experiences of higher consciousness. Edgar Mitchell told us privately that there are extraterrestrial races.
He actually himself never saw them, but, he was raised in Roswell, New Mexico. So after he was a, astronaut, he came back and people started telling him, even on their deathbeds, about what they saw for the Roswell crash. And, of course, then he had other astronauts and pilots who also had seen things that reported to him.
We actually have a video out, which is called Wisdom of the Wayshowers, where we have an excerpt with Edgar Mitchell discussing the extraterrestrial question that's available through our website. But in so many words, Edgar is one of several astronauts we knew privately who recognized the positive side of cosmic cultures that are headed this way and the need to gear up and to go beyond the fear barrier.
And I think the other astronaut that we should mention at the same time
is Gordon Cooper.
Exactly, yes. Astronaut Gordon Cooper, because we were consultants with Sidney Sheldon on his book Doomsday Conspiracy. And basically, he asked us to bring some people together, and Gordon was living in Los Angeles at the time, so it was easy to get them together and talk. And basically, Gordon Cooper in 1951 saw a flotilla of UFOs flying over where we were flying on the west side of Germany, and there was MiGs, he was saying, right next to him, also seeing it on the east side of Germany. It was the east and west problem.
Hundreds of spaceships at the higher elevation.
Higher than we or they, the Russians, could go at that time. And he came back and reported it.
So what did they do?
Yeah.
Did they lock him up? No, they made him an astronaut.
So I think that's a key giveaway that they already knew what was going on.
So the power system behind the scenes know there's more to the story. And what we've been seeing is the posturing and the play acting of a lot of amateurs who make their decisions to scare people. We feel that the positive forces far outnumber the negative, and it's important to gear up for this quantum change that is coming.
And, of course, Buzz Aldrin's gotten a bad rap recently, but basically he didn't like to talk about it. But when he went up there with Armstrong, basically they had lights, as many of your listeners probably know, following them the whole way.
To and from the moon.
Yeah, and so he doesn't like to talk about it too much because it wasn't helpful in trying to get funding for some of his pet projects. But basically they also saw things when they were going. So you basically had at least two astronauts that saw things, and then a third who...
Not only two astronauts, but two pioneer astronauts who opened up the space age. And we're just beginning to bootstrap what this really means.
But I think if we can just say one more thing, that in terms of Edgar Mitchell, his amazing thing, which changes his whole life, was this epiphany, we could say almost overview experience that he had coming back. And we do feel that the Earth has a certain magnetic field, that the Russians have done some study on this, that kind of keeps us a little bit blocked and locked. Where the weakest part of the magnetic field is, one of the weakest parts right now is over Brazil. And if any place is going to be far out in some of their consciousness, it's Brazil. They have a lot of healers, a lot of really, people that are doing kind of very paraphysical things. And so it seems that magnetic fields has something to do with it. So when he was out there coming back, talk about his experience that he actually sent messages, right?
Well, Edgar Mitchell was close to two of our colleagues.
Ingo Swann,
the great psychic who worked at Stanford Research Institute, and also Harold Sherman, who also was a great paraphysicist, who located a down aviation expert who lost his way in the North Pole area many years before present time. So we were told that very sophisticated mathematical cues were sent from outer space without technology.
From Edgar Mitchell.
From Edgar Mitchell, without telling NASA authorities, as a test to Harold Sherman and Ingo Swann, and they both scored on a high level of performance, which means air-free transmission of mind over matter is possible even 250,000 miles off the surface of Mother Earth.
And, of course, the ETs do that all the time.
Well, Edgar talked about that paranormal experience. It changed him.
Exactly.
It created the IONS Institute of Noetic Science.
And this is why we're working with him and his colleagues, pushing the envelope, because we need to have more positive thinkers, more futurists, and people who understand the blend of spirituality and science and a new sense of higher synthesis.
But if we can get back to ETs a little bit, I mean, we're just starting to grow in our minds. They can talk, as you've heard from some of the reports, I'm sure that's been brought to you. But for the most part, they use mental telepathy. And some of our work with Elizabeth Rauscher, even Russell Targ, I'm glad you had him on with the Third Eye Spies. I'll give a plug for his new movie coming out. Shows that we have the ability to communicate just like ETs, but we just need to start using it.
Have you been able to do that? I feel that I have, okay, in a weird way. Have you been able to do that? Have you ever, summoned something?
I definitely have had experiences. In fact, this is one of the reasons why I've had to be very careful of the last 45 years of scientific research, is people make claims and assertions without scientific evidence. And
Sure.
What I'm standing behind here is a plethora of information that has been confirmed from various directions with the top people in the space program, people working in parapsychology, paraphysical investigations, and even indigenous elders in Brazil and South Africa who have recognized that there's a higher level of communication being given to the human race. So to answer your question, yes, yes, and yes.
But it's not only summoning, it's also knowing. It's a seeing, like whether you look at the other side of the globe. What we were talking about, we just did a lecture last weekend on the fact of Ingo Swann, who is really one of the famous remote viewers. In fact, maybe Russell said, really almost the initiation of the SRI teamwork. Basically, he remote viewed to Jupiter, and this is in the early 70s, and he saw things on Jupiter like crystalline particles and certain things that only within 9 months later, it didn't take a long time, that the science confirmed with the Voyager probe going there. So it's very, very interesting that you can remote view other planets as well.
The ability, okay, this is what I find absolutely fascinating, is that if you're just minding your own business, you're out with friends and you can look up to the sky and not see anything, and then have a positive thing in your mind with you and your friends going, okay, it'd be cool if we saw something, and all of a sudden, bam, right? It's like, wait a minute, that is amazing. And it happens pretty much on command, which would suggest a mind connection with something, whether it's interdimensional or something that's physical, but the phenomena itself is real, and it does happen.
Absolutely. In fact, let's give a plug for Contact in the Desert right now. We're all going to be there, and we'll be on your panel, which we're happy about. And people go out at night and they look at the goggles, those night viewing glasses, and many of them have had experiences in seeing things. And yes, they are listening, they are watching. One time we had an experience with some friends. There was actually a friend of mine, because I grew up in Florida, they had gone out to the Bermuda Triangle, and they had contact with alien ship who told them about certain things and stuff like that. But they said, don't tell people a lot. So then one time we were sitting in the kitchen, and they were all... A
lawyer?
Yeah, the guy's a lawyer now, and they were talking about it. All of a sudden, a shelf that had stuff on it flew up, not down.
It flew up because we were talking about things that shouldn't be talked about.
So they know, they hear. I mean, anyone...
Wait, stop, Desiree. Hold on. You can't just get away and not tell me what happened.
No, the shelf actually flew up, and then the guy says, I can't say anything anymore because they're listening. I mean, there's a consciousness linkage. This is really where remote viewing comes in, because everything is interconnected. It's almost like, I don't want to say the government listen on your program if you say a bad word.
Right.
They start, putting all the signals out. It's the same thing in terms of outer space. We're constantly projecting energy. We're biotransducers, Dr. Hurtak calls us, which send and receive information all the time.
Let's put it another way. We're here not to get everything handed to us on a plate or platter. We have to find out these higher realities for ourselves, and that's why we're in a schoolhouse. According to my experience of contact with spiritual intelligence, we are here to realize the missing pieces are there within the way the mind thinks through thought form communication.
Is all of this, JJ, is all of this the science and what is going on in physics and astronomy and astrophysics right now, combined with our knowledge and our research from our community, are we getting close? Are we getting close to a true disclosure where we can, close the book on one part of this, the question is answered, and we can start to move on with the other aspects of the ET question?
We're uncovering the past and we're uncovering the future at the same time. So past and future are converging with the present. So yes and no. We are, for those who want to take the higher path, being given opportunities to accelerate. As I said a few minutes ago, we put out a book called Over Self-Awakening. We have a higher consciousness mind, consciousness being defined here as a universal global mind that we can tap into to accelerate our learning, or we can stay in the comfort zone of simply seeing things as a passive, non-engaging reality.
But when you say the word disclosure, you're usually talking about, is the government going to disclose? Obviously they've known about things since 1947. If you even go back to Cape Girardeau
in Missouri
in 1941,
right.
That was really maybe one of the first real sightings. Little beings, Roswell definitely little beings, and other types of beings, people being abducted, reporting abductions. How does the government come forward and just say, well, yeah, for, gosh, how long has it been? It's like 60 years. We've been covering up our contact with other beings, and it's not one being, it's many beings, and they all have different agendas. I mean, it's not that easy. But so I think it's up to us, all of us, and especially you and your program and Contact in the Desert, with Paul and Victoria, to bring this information out to
and to
people.
use discerning insights as to, is there a message of love, is there a message of science for everyone, or is it just for the elites? And this has been the problem of history.
That's one of the best points that the both of you can bring up, is that why put the negative spin and the fear side of ET on this? Because clearly, if there was negative intentions, the three of us would not be on the air right now, right? We wouldn't even be here. So why put the negative spin on it when clearly that's not the case?
I think there's an over-dramatization of the way the mind is trained to think in duality, this versus that. And we begin to realize the concept of what is called in mystical Christianity and Judaism, and to be sure the other religious traditions, a third phase, which is the middle pillar, where you begin to take both the male and the female and bring it together into a middle ground, or trinitized mind that sees the fact that there is a positive purpose of life and not just a negative burnout.
So Dr. Jack had this unique experience in 1973, and he was told about 64 areas of science that will advance. Some of it is astrophysics, some of it is genetics, some of it is quantum physics, so that we would know what's going on. But the main thing is, like Interstellar, and I think that's such a cool show. I'm sure you've talked about it many times in your program.
Sure.
That, it's not that they want to give us they're not going to come down here and just take care of us, and say that's it. They're trying to feed us the information to at least let us make some of the changes ourselves. And I don't know why they work like that. I would much rather have them just take care of it all. But bottom line, it seems that they're trying to feed us information so that we're more ready.
There's a word called responsibility. It means to be alive, to be human, is to have a certain sense of responsibility that goes with being a human, but also being a new creature, to use the words of the great apostle, which is space kind, the ability to live in space and new celestial environments, without the earth limitation to violence or to simply recycling the old war syndrome. So we are here promoting a culture of peace as opposed to a culture of violence and death. And this is why your program is so important, as it reaches out with new information, new science, and deeper understanding of the spiritual truths found by all of the great prophets. And we are representatives of the kingdom of glory, even in the fuller sense of our baby steps.
And it seems that some of the ETs actually feel the same way, that until we actually get beyond some of our violence, right now I think we're looking at trying to put space-based weapons up in space. We've got to get rid of all that consciousness and literally, become part of a greater brotherhood and sisterhood, because otherwise we really can't live in space. They don't want us out there. You can even see from some of the probes that have gone out there from the Russians or the U.S., sometimes with nuclear, they've not made it to where they wanted to go. The probes to Mars, for one thing, one of the earlier probes, because they don't want our
technology to be a technology of death. They do not want technology of death because it would be a cancer to other planetary societies.
Yeah, there is a photograph that was published and they immediately removed of the Russian probe that was going around Phobos, and there was a craft that appeared in front of their satellite, and then their satellite was taken out. But
right, long shadow.
Yeah.
I remember that very much because I was part of the information release in Mexico City of that, which was from Moscow, but also to Jet Propulsion Lab. That information was really alarming to space officialdom because he realized there was something else out there that was watching all the details.
And the Russians wanted to come out with that information, but by the time it was, 2 or 3 days later, then they didn't say anything about it.
That's right. That's right. And that is also what Buzz Aldrin has been on about for so many years, was the monolith on Phobos.
Right.
Exactly, yeah. So we feel that there is more out there and that they've been watching us, of course, probably even from the moon, from Mars, from outer space.
And this is why we need a positive space law in place to show that we're ready to graduate.
I don't know if you guys realized, you can do this after the show, but 3 major networks today, and I'm talking about International Business Times and RT and a couple of others, and all had stories on we are not alone in the universe, number one. Number two, the cover of this month's Nat Geo magazine is about contact. And it's all at the same time this month. So I agree with you. I mean, today, all of this came flooding out. There is something going on about acclimating us and getting us ready for something. And I don't know exactly what it is, but I think it's close.
And then Norman released that book, The Ringmakers of Saturn, showing that some of the probes that NASA has shown up by Saturn has shown certain types of objects. That also just came out.
And Norman has been up here with NASA authorities for many years.
So, I mean, first of all, no astrophysicist worth his salt would ever say we're alone in the universe when you see the billions and trillions of stars. But now I think there's more and more that's coming out with NASA. Showing these kind of technologies. I loved, of course, the release that happened a year ago with Captain Favor, 2 Navy pilots looking at a UFO coming out of the water. I mean, there's just so much. It's just impossible. So everyone should come to contact. You can hear the whole thing.
And most importantly, everybody should get down to business and realize miracles are ahead. We must gear up for these changes coming. We must be activists with the light, the living divine spark within us, to understand that we are part of a much greater family.
What is the name, really quick, I don't want this to get away from us. What's the name of the new website you guys just launched?
Right, initiation.us.
Initiation.us. Okay, I'm sending this out right now on Twitter. I want everybody to go and check it out. Boom.
And for those interested in what was beneath the Great Pyramid before it was found, in terms of that missing Osiris tomb, go to our CD called Merkabah, Voyage of a Starseed, and you'll actually see, before we found this tomb underneath the Giza Plateau, an actual animation of the tomb with the open aspect of how the human form is there, coming out of the old into the new. It's a graphic that we received many international awards for, that people should love in the experience of the inner planes of consciousness.
Okay, I've got, I'm on the website now. This is very, very cool. So it just went out in Twitter. So I'm going to ask everybody from the audience. I just did that, so retweet it. There you go. Okay, so that's out. And everybody can go to initiation.us and, of course, check out Giza's Industrial Complex, the new book. What are you guys working on now? Film? TV?
I was going to say, yeah, Dr. Hurtak once a year puts out a new book. And one of the ones he put out a few years ago says how he feels we are a Damic species and that we're not, of course, limited to this planet. And I think that's really important. I know many people talk about the hybridization of us. And, of course, that did take place at one point in our distant past. But the flood actually, supposedly, if you look at the ancient book of Enoch, said that changed it. We got back to our original we'll say state of being, and we'll find us on other planets. We were very good friends with Elizabeth Clark, who had contact with someone from Alpha Centauri. She even had a child with them. So, we're basically also out in space. It's not just little green men or grays.
But these
or
are
reptilians.
scientific position papers, and that Desiree is explaining the new keys of Enoch. And also, we're working with music from Brazil that is really the great invocation put into music form, the realization that there is a higher symphony of sound, a global, shall we say, soundscape that's awakening amongst people throughout the world, that's taking us into a new facet of our inner sensitivity. And hopefully this will orientate us, as they say in ancient Greek times, ad astra, to the stars.
You should see
the House of Many Mansions.
Yeah, you should see this cover of Nat Geo this month, right here, March. We are not alone. That is the cover. I mean, what, anybody want to take a guess at what the message is? It's absolutely unbelievable. Okay, I look forward to Contact in the Desert. I can't believe it's March. In just a month and a half, we'll be hanging out once again out there in Palm Springs, and I look forward to breaking bread and hanging out with the both of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing the good word and the good perspective at the flagship.
And I want
great work.
I want to mention to the both of you, do you guys realize the hive mind connection that the two of you have? I know I realize it results from decades of being together, but it's so much fun to listen to you guys start and finish your sentences and your thoughts and how connected you two guys are. It's just wonderful to listen to.
Thank you.
Love to everyone out there.
Yeah, and we are not alone, so that's important. We're getting there.
Safe travels, you guys, and we'll see you in Palm Springs in May.
Okay.
Ciao.
Ciao. Bye.
Have a great night. JJ and Desiree Hurtak. What a great conversation. All the way through overtime tonight. Been together for over 40 years doing this for us in this community. And I do want to remind everybody, I just put the new website up. It is called initiation.us. Share it. Get it out there. I see what everybody is doing. Thank you for doing that. And get right over where you can check out the new book, Giza's Industrial Complex. I'm going to hold this up to the camera one more time so you guys understand exactly what's going on. Full color, glossy. I like the glossy aspect of it. I've said it a few times tonight. Charts, graphs, floor plans, design, research. It's an amazing book, and you can go and get it right now at initiation.us. Great conversation tonight. Thank you, JJ and Desiree. It's going to be great hanging out with them at Contact in the Desert, of course, but you can reach out to them at futurescience.org and keysofenoch.org. The links are over at jimmychurchradio.com. All right, now, tomorrow night is Fader Night. It is going to be open lines all night long. I realize the amazing week that we have had here at Fade to Black. Lots of stuff to talk about tomorrow night, and I do want to hear from all of you. And with that, that is going to wrap another week here on Fade to Black, of course, aside from tomorrow night, which is Fader Night. But what an amazing week. And I'll see everybody tomorrow night. Of course, my favorite night of the week is when I get a chance to hang out with all of you, to listen to your stories of contact and your sightings and your life experiences and your family and everything that is going on with all of you. Fade to Black's executive producer is Rita Camarion. Show is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee, Dennis, and Bob. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vito, and Mark D. Kovar. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and syndication is KGRA, The Planet. This broadcast owned 2019 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me right now on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Until tomorrow night, Fader Night, open lines all night long. I want everybody to be safe. Go Beckley Teppy.